This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you on a packed show coming off a bit of an off night for the Winnipeg Jets last night in Vancouver, taking it on the chin, losing 6-2 to the desperate Canucks as they continue their Western road trip into Edmonton tomorrow night for an 8 o'clock start against the Oilers. Don't forget, WST watch party for Oilers and Jets with Little Brown Jug at Boston Pizza Garden City tomorrow night. Hopefully you'll be able to make it out and join us. Should be fun. We'll have some great prizes from BP and Little Brown Jug to give away. Do a few fun contests in between periods. And most of all, hopefully have as much fun as we did earlier this season when we did this at BP Polo for the Detroit game. So if you've got an open schedule tomorrow night, plan to join us. BP Garden City. The puck drops at 8 p.m. If you are going to bring a crew or you need a table, you can give them a call to reserve something for your group, and we'll hopefully see you tomorrow. On today's show, we'll get thoughts on last night's game, the wild card race in the West, and of course, Connor Hellebuck's incredible season with Kevin Woodley of InGoal Magazine and NHL.com. Murat is going to join us a little later on as well. Look, I have to talk to him about the third line. We'll get into that right away with Michael Remis when he joins me. It had been a minute since we'd seen the Lowry line broken up, but if not last night, it probably was never going to happen because they had a real tough go, particularly Nito Niederreiter and Mason Appleton, who saw themselves swapped with Alex Iafallo and Brandon Tanev. So Murat coming up around the top of hour 2. And then later on in today's program, we're going to bring in CEBL Commissioner Mike Morreale. Plans are coming together for CEBL Championship weekend here in Winnipeg in August. So we'll find out how things are going in the offseason and what we can look forward to culminate the Sea Bears' third season in the league. Great to have everybody with us. Shout out to you all in chat. If you're jumping on or you haven't been here before, welcome, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're live every day, 1 p.m. Central Time, live on YouTube Monday to Friday. And, of course, you can search Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and the audio feed will be in immediately upon conclusion of the show, Monday to Friday. Before we bring in Reem, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen every day. Our great friends and partners over at Coolbet Canada just had another fun lock shop. Looking forward to March Madness getting going tomorrow. Don't forget to fill out a bracket for our contest. Of course, Princess Auto, St. Vital Dental Center, Rolly's Transfer, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Wallace & Wallace, the Winnipeg Jets, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, fansfirst.ca, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly, and McGilvery. Welcome to the gang in chat, and welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's going on?
Feeling good, trying to brush off last night's game, but pumped to be here and looking forward to another great show, Hustler.
Yeah, let's get into it last night. This wasn't one of the Jets' better performances. I think we can all agree on that. There were a number of chances that the Jets in other games maybe bury, and, we've got a different situation, but there was a couple of just high-leverage moments in the game that went the other way that hasn't happened very often so far this year. I mean, a giveaway in the final 15 seconds of the first period with the Jets down 2-1 was corralled by Vancouver, and a rush starting in their own end with less than 10 seconds left ended up in the back of the net, which was a real killer goal. But, going into the second period, it was all about getting that next one. And after Scott Arniel changed the lines very quickly, Adam Lowry, along with Tanev and Iafallo, were able to pounce. Iafallo continuing to show his versatility and his value to the Winnipeg Jets, made it 3-2. And it kind of felt like a lot like Sunday, to be honest, Remis. I mean, they were generating some great chances. It was like, all right, the Jets are flexing and they're showing who's boss. Unfortunately, and we'll ask Kevin Woodley about this. I mean, a goal that maybe goes in once a year. Connor Hellebuyck seemingly with full control of the puck and having it covered didn't. Brock Besser takes a little crack at it, slides between Hellebuck's pads, and that goal seemed to really take the steam out of the Jets' sails. Now, listen, they had 2 power plays at the end of the second period with an opportunity to get back into the game. That didn't happen. And, credit to the Vancouver Canucks who, according to a number of people in that Vancouver market, played one of their best games of the season. And listen, they needed to beat a team like the Winnipeg Jets, considering the stakes with St. Louis and Calgary also winning last night. Offensively, I thought the Jets did a lot of really good things. It was the defensive side of the game, which is not something that we've said almost at all this year. That was an off night for the Jets. Scott Arniel certainly didn't put it on Connor Hellebuyck. We'll listen to him in a minute. But, one of those games where you just have to realize that is not up to the Winnipeg Jets standard. And if you play like that, especially in your own end, more often than not, you'll be on the wrong side of the ledger. And that is not something the Jets have been used to saying so far this year.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to see some calm down after the high of the Dallas win. That game was really ramped up. You knew how important it was. And then you head on the road through 2 time zones, Huss, and you're in Seattle. And, you have this big comeback. And, okay, how are they going to keep it going against Vancouver? Now, if Kyle Connor scores on that half empty net where he shot it right at Lankinen, or do we have a different story? If you mentioned the defensive play, I mean, there's limited time left in the first period, and the Canucks had how many passes through the neutral zone to set up Niels Höglander with 3 seconds left?
That was a killer.
And but they still battled, and I think I saw comments from Coachy51 who was at the game saying, hey, even when it was 5-2, a lot of the Jets fans in attendance still had faith that they could come back. Alex Iafallo makes it 3-2. They have a power play where they had some, offensive time, a chance to score. But as you said, Brock Besser, that was, was the Höglander goal was the backbreaker 3-1, or was the Besser where you think, okay, Hellebuyck is human, in fact, Huss. Maybe taking a bit too much time to cover the puck right in front of him. The Jets just didn't have it last night. And Scott Arniel making some changes. And I do, that's a story of the game for me. Do we see this revamped, third, fourth line, tomorrow night in Edmonton? We hadn't really seen that at all. It had been rock solid together, Lowry, Nito, Ryder, and Appleton. But, I mean, Niederreiter, he's got 1 point in his, last 13 games. Appleton as well in a bit of an extended slump. And, Iafallo's been scoring. He's getting power play 2-time. Brandon Tanev's been a ball of energy since coming in. Maybe reward those guys with some more ice time and let Niederreiter, who we know he can score goals. He's had chances, but, it's not going in for him right now. Do you give those guys some fourth line time? So I wonder what happens tomorrow. The Jets are off today for a travel day. We'll see what happens in the morning skate. But that was an interesting development. And also Connor Hellebuyck, giving up 5 goals. Like 5 goals. You don't really see that very much this year.
No, I mean, it hadn't happened since the 16th of November. And, it did do a little bit of a number on his overall season numbers. I mean, he'd been flirting under 2 goals a game. And, with the 1 goal in the 10 minutes of action in Seattle, combined with the 5 last night, his goals against average has ballooned to 2.05 for the entire season. All I know, he's looking to try to get that under 2 I'll need to mix in maybe a goose egg or two down the stretch. We'll hear from Morreale in a minute, Remis, but to me, I thought the second line was really dangerous. There was a couple lines that the first line was off, but even in the first period, as you got like a little further on and the Jets got their legs under them, a couple shifts where basically Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor were looking like, well, they've looked at their best so far this year. There was a few good blocks, a few saves. I mean, I thought the Canucks were really committed to doing what they could do. And I think their pre-scout on the Jets was really good. Their sticks were in the right place on the PK there late in the second period. And they did a good job of, I think, being prepared for what Winnipeg was coming with. And at the end of the day, keeping the puck out of the net, although a couple big saves and a couple ones that I'm sure the Winnipeg Jets would like to have back. But listen, we haven't talked a lot about this because the team has kept on winning. They've been in first overall. There's been a lot of good things to focus on, but it's impossible not to get into the third line. And, Appleton, Nino Niederreiter, and Adam Lowry had been not just a constant, but maybe the constant this year, along with Velarde, along with Scheifele and Connor. Scott Arniel, I think, got to the point last night where he figured he had to do something. I mean, it was an absolutely ugly start to the game for that group. Appleton and Niederreiter both finishing at -3. And I think it sort of spoke to how the game went for Nino Niederreiter. Just as Kevin Sawyer was talking about his extended goalless drought in the first period, Nino actually had the puck, took it to the net, wasn't able to score, and the next thing you know, Vancouver's getting it, going back the other way and getting things going for them. And again, it was a turnover by that line. I believe it was Nino in the final 15, 20 seconds that allowed the Canucks to regroup and have that rush that ended up putting them up 3-1. Now, I will say that of all of the lines of the Winnipeg Jets and the players that we're talking about, based on their body of work, I've got a lot of confidence that, in particular, Nino Niederreiter, but Lowry's unit, if they do go back together, will be able to play important shifts, win the majority of their battles. But they have been off a little bit lately, and it was not a surprise, I think, to anyone, Reem, to see Arniel pull the trigger and move up Brandon Tanev and Alex Iafallo, who had been looking very good with Morgan Barron, to some duty with Adam Lowry. And sure enough, that was a spark that really did get the Jets back into this with that big first goal in the second period to make it 3-2 before the one that they probably would really like to have back ended up getting that 2-goal lead again for Vancouver.
Yeah, you look at the numbers for the Appleton, Lowry, Niederreiter line. Didn't go well for them. 2 goals against and .435, 0 shot attempts for. I guess they didn't register a shot attempt when Niederreiter drove to the net there before the first goal, and 8 against. And it didn't go much better when they, for that line that was swapped with the Appleton, Bear, and Niederreiter. They were on for a goal against. 2 shot attempts, 4 and 5 against. So Appleton, Niederreiter, certainly a rough one. And, it certainly credit to Scott Arniel for saying, hey, you got to try something. Iafallo, he's been scoring goals and, went to the net, found a bouncing puck. And that line did produce in 6:57 at 5-on-5 us, 1 goal for, 9 shot attempts for, and only 1 against. So I do wonder if this time of year you're looking to see, hey, what other combinations can we go to if things aren't working, give guys experience. And we know Tanev played with Lowry back in 2018 as well. Iafallo, his name isn't Andrew Kopp, but he is wearing number 9 Hustlers. So maybe they do switch, do go to that. And we won't know until tomorrow because they're off today.
That would be the alt line.
I think it was the TLC.
Lowry, Tanev.
It was the TLC line
or the lit line.
Lowry,
Iafallo, Tanev.
Yeah,
get lit.
Get. Hey, Tanev looks like he's lit all the time, lit on fire all over the ice. So, hey, we'll see what happens. That's certainly, I think, a story. How about Nikolai Ehlers? I mean, this guy scores a highlight reel goal.
Dude,
that gets kind of forgotten in a game that's 5-2. I mean, Cole Perfetti continuing.
He's so dangerous right now. And not only did he score that goal, which was, I mean, another just beauty. He did a similar move later on with the Jets down 3-2 and ripped it off the crossbar. That is, a couple millimeters shorter or lower. And again, maybe we're having a different story, but we're not. I mean, the Jets had some great chances. Ehlers, Scheifele, Connor, they didn't go in. And credit to the Vancouver Canucks for taking advantage of some uncharacteristically loose defensive play by the Jets at times to get a desperately needed win. Let's hear what Coach Arniel had to say about last night's game. Here is Arnie from Vancouver after the 6-2 setback to the Canucks.
We certainly made some early mistakes. Gave up a lot more rush opportunities than we ever have, I think, in a game, and they capitalized. Then that late goal at the end of the first, a little bit of a backbreaker. But after that, in the second period, I thought we had some great zone time, some great opportunities. Goalie made some big stops. Even parts of the third there was still lots of opportunity for us to get back. But every time we made a mistake, it went in the back of our net.
Curious, do you have a conversation with Helly after 2 there about? Or that's his game the whole way. How
many games you see him have those? I mean, this isn't on him.
I
you know what? That's at the end of the day, it was if it's 50, 60 shots coming at him, it's a little different thing. But like I said, a lot of them they were mistakes that we made and ended up in the back of the net, whether there's coverage or off the rush. And you know what? We know what he's done for us all year long, and we'll just get right back on the horse and he'll go back at Edmonton.
All right, so there's Arnie. And listen, to Mike's question, Remis, that was a fair one. I was wondering whether we would see Hellebuyck for the third period, not, because they needed to pull him if they wanted to win the game, but just that with the unexpected minutes and insertion into the game on Sunday night against the Kraken, I did wonder whether they might, look to give him a little bit of extra rest to be ready for the Edmonton Oilers. But I think more than anything, just the competitor in Hellebuyck will have him be at his best for tomorrow. Now, Scott Arniel kind of lamented some defensive breakdowns, and in particular, that second period, some big-time rush chances against the Jets. Here's what Arnie had to say about not being able to limit the Canucks off the rush like they've done so successfully most nights this year.
We got caught at times, maybe being a little over-aggressive. We got in situations where we didn't have our numbers against their numbers, and they got up the ice in a hurry, and they were desperate, and you know what, we just made some mistakes and they capitalized.
And to start the second period, you flipped the centers there in the bottom 6. You had Tanev and Iafallo.
You have to do something, right? Yeah, you have to do something. So they went out and scored a goal. So it's just sometimes you just want to get a spark. I love the other two lines where Scheif's line had great zone time. Perfetti's line was outstanding. There was a lot of looks and a lot of chances, and it is their goaltender made some big stops as well.
Scott Arniel, so pretty happy with the top 6. Usually if your top 6 plays like that, feeling pretty good, but obviously a switch in the bottom 6 and just some defensive breakdowns, which ended up being the big factor in last night's loss. Now, it could have been worse. At one point, Josh Morrissey left the game. There was concern about him, and then a scary moment last night where Dylan DeMello was down on the ice for a few minutes, or maybe a minute or two before getting up and returning to the game. Just here's Scott Arniel on both members of his top defense pairing getting banged up during last night's tilt.
Yeah, they want to do everything they can to keep pucks out of the net, do whatever it takes to not give up scoring chances, and that's just our group. They're determined to play hard, and you don't like to see those guys leave, obviously, but I'm glad to see both of them come back.
You've always liked, or usually like, how your team responds, and I guess it shouldn't be hard to get up for what you've got coming up next. Edmonton team that's feeling pretty good after a big night tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we'll soak this one in, look at the video, and use what we need to use, and then you're right. And then we got to go into against the Edmonton team that our opening game against them. We know what we did. They know what we did. So we have to make sure we're at our best.
So Scott Arniel looking ahead to tomorrow against the Edmonton Oilers. We'll do that watch party over at Boston Pizza, Garden City. Hope to see you there for that. Let's hear from Dylan DeMello first things first, to number 2, he was asked how he was feeling after that incident last night where he went awkwardly into the boards, hitting his head and seemingly hurting his neck.
Yeah, I'm good. Neck's sore, but boys were saying it looked as bad as it probably felt, so doing all right though. Thanks.
Yeah, just a bit of obviously an awkward collision there. You didn't even miss a shift though. Like, it's pretty impressive recovery.
Yeah, I felt fine, honestly. I just had the whole self neck adjustment, and I was pretty sore, but it was good, honestly. Felt pretty fine outside of being pretty sore in the neck.
That is great news from Dylan DeMello, Reem. I mean, at the moment where he was down, he wasn't moving very much, and you saw both of his legs not moving, his skates out, and there was a moment I was really concerned that maybe there was something with the feeling that he had below his legs. That wasn't the case. He ended up getting up afterwards and toughing it out, getting right back in, although said his neck was still pretty sore after that very awkward way he went into the boards.
Yeah, it had a chance to go from a really bad night to a worse one a couple times there for the Jets, with Josh Morrissey leaving briefly, getting hit by a puck. As you mentioned, the DeMello play, holding his head. And, Gabe Vilardi took a high stick, in the game as well. And you're like, oh, what if something happened there?
That was a dangerous one because the angle of it got up underneath his visor into it. But, losses are going to happen. The one thing you don't want to lose is any players, but particularly key players moving forward. And I think the Jets dodged a couple bullets. Here's one more from DeMello. Just maybe on the Jets not being able to match Vancouver's intensity or level of desperation last night.
I think you look at pretty much all their goals. They're first to pucks. They beat us back to the net. It's not a recipe for success on our group, very unlike our group. So, it's going to happen over an 82-game season, and we'll move on to the next one.
Does the fact this happens so rarely make it easier to move on?
Yeah, I mean, regardless, you got to move on. Obviously, if it was more frequent, it would be obviously a bit more of a concern. We'll have to put a good effort next game against a really good Edmonton team. We know that, and I think we can all look in the mirror and know that was a lot of self-inflicted wounds and not the style of play that we want to be. So I think we'll be able to move on from that and hopefully put a good and a better effort into the next game.
All right, and one more from the Jet dressing room. Alex Iafallo, who scored the Jets' second goal after being put with Adam Lowry along with Brandon Tanev, just talked about the line switch that was executed by head coach Scott Arniel.
Yeah, for sure. Just getting, I think that's what the mindset was, just trying to get, different looks maybe. And obviously, Tanny hasn't played with many guys yet, so, it's a good forechecking line and just trying to create that offense down low and, keep putting pressure on them. So
In your guys' case, it paid off. You get a goal fairly quickly in the second. That's just an example of going hard to the net, right? And
yeah, just going hard to the net. You never know where you could bounce off of, even behind the net. So that's what we're going to keep doing. And, big game in Edmonton to test that out.
All right, so there's Alex Iafallo. Jets lose 6-2, empty netter at the end. We'll chop it up with Kevin Woodley and Murat coming up over the course of the next hour or so here on WST. Listen, before we bring in Kevin Woodley, big shout out to our friends over at Rolly's Transfer. Gang, if you got a move coming up in the spring or the summer, talk to the folks at Rolly's about the move, because they've been doing it for over 60 years and are the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba. Head on over to their website at rollys.com. Top right corner, you'll see the request an estimate feature. When you click that, you'll see a promo code. Put in WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And let our friends at Rolly's know when you are planning on moving, where you need to go, and what will be moved. And they'll turn it around with a great quote quickly to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they have been famous for now into their 7th decade. For your next move, make it Rolly's Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate today from the experts at rollys.com. Spring is here. A lot of spring cleaning happening in your property, in your home. What about a spring cleaning for your mouth? That is a perfect time to get in to see Dr. Terry and the great staff at St. Vital Dental Center. great supporters of Winnipeg Sports Talk, conveniently located at 167 St. Anne's. The beautiful new facility, a wonderful staff, free parking right behind the building, and every dental service you need, serving customers for generations in the St. Vital area, and patients from 6 months all the way to 99. St. Vital Dental Center has all of your dental needs covered. Find out more online at stvitaldental.ca to make an appointment or give them a phone call, and you can always pop by and see them at 167 St. Anne's, again with free parking in the back. Cheers to our friends at Canadian Club, the Canadian whiskey, the standard since 1848. Maybe a lot of your bourbons and whatnot not available right now at your local Manitoba liquor marts due to the trade war. That's okay, though, because Canadian Club isn't going anywhere. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and check out Canadian Club. Canadian Club 100% rye, Canadian Club Classic, and more. And when you're thinking about making it Canadian, nothing more Canadian than the great taste of Canadian Club. And just before we bring in Kevin Woodley, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, your number one spot to shop local and get the best prices around for batteries for literally everything. Of course, cars and trucks all winter long, still need to keep those on the road. But whether you need for that or something fun as we transition into spring and summer, just know that you'll get the best price in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores, and the best customer service as well, as Manitoba Battery will deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. For all your battery needs, keep it local and save cash with Manitoba Battery. 2 locations, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, and you can shop online at manitobabattery.com. All right, Murat coming up at the top of the hour. Right now, though, let's welcome in Kevin Woodley out in Vancouver for his thoughts on last night's game, the wild card race, and the incredible season of Connor Hellebuyck. Kev, great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
Well, I mean, first off, great to be back. Second off, when I woke up this morning before joining you, I had to make sure that I was, not still in the twilight zone after what happened last night. I assumed we'd be talking about the great Jets team, the great Jets goaltending. We still can because those things still exist, but felt almost, to be honest, a little bit like a look ahead for them last night. The way everyone sort of referenced the Edmonton game coming up, can't help but wonder if human nature slipped in there a little bit. And that combined with the desperate Canucks team that frankly probably played the best game of the season, especially in terms of some of the dynamic rush chances and goals that they finished. It was not what many in this market expected last night.
Yeah. I mean, listen, full credit to Vancouver. I thought, to your point, I thought they were full marks for their win last night. And I mean, from a Jets perspective, there were a lot of great chances, as we're accustomed to seeing. I mean, some big saves by Lankinen, a couple ones that didn't just go in. What was a little off for the Winnipeg Jets was that defensive structure. And I'm sure some of it was on Winnipeg, but, you kind of mentioned it, the way the Canucks pushed their opportunities. When the Jets did turn the puck over or they did give up an on-man rush, man, Vancouver had some finish last night, and that hadn't been something that we'd been saying about the Canucks for the last little while.
Well, combination of things, right? You're right. They hadn't finished. They're on a little run here, which, hey, guess what? Coincides with Quinn Hughes being back for 4 games. I think they got the 4 against Calgary with the shootout. Obviously didn't score against Utah the other night in a game that frankly made watching paint dry seem exciting. And then 6 against Winnipeg and 6 against the Blackhawks. I don't know if that counts, but in the 15 games prior, they'd never got past 3. So Hughes being back is a big part of it. You're right, the finish, but just the generation. Like, we have not seen them generate those types of looks. And Rick Tocchet was sort of all over them after the Utah game for not taking pucks to the middle, for regrouping all the time rather than attacking north-south and trying to generate speed and trying to create rush chances. This team is one of the lowest rush chance creation teams in the entire league. And you're right, last night was just one of those ones where they were looking to create it. To their credit, they did. And it just, like I said, felt like a night where the Jets maybe didn't have their fastball in terms of, those are the types of chances that from a distance, you'd know better than me, but at least analytically, when I look at the underlying numbers, peek under the hood, they don't typically give up in Winnipeg defensively.
No, I don't think there's any question about that. And the timing of a couple of the goals were really tough. I mean, that one at the end of the first period, a 2-goal lead with 2 seconds left was a bit of a backbreaker. But again, we were watching the game, said this next goal is going to be so huge. The Jets get it. It is game on again. And then listen, there is not a single person that follows or covers the Winnipeg Jets that is going to give Connor Hellebuck any sort of the business. But he would be the first one to admit that that goal that put the Vancouver Canucks up 4-2 was one that might happen once a year. And unfortunately, last night, was it just a matter of being a little bit nonchalant with the puck and not having things, the pads together underneath? Because it seemed like he totally had it. And next thing you know, it was squeezing through in the net.
Yeah, I'm not going to criticize the best goalie in the world.
Yeah.
But I mean, nights like that happen. It's funny. Like, as soon as you reach down to cover a puck, like inherently, unless you really squeeze, you just, the human nature of that pitch forward is your legs want to just sort of widen out a little bit. And, Besser kind of made the play up the wall and was kind of coming from off to his side. Like, I'm not sure he saw him coming. And it's like, we've all done it as goalies. Obviously, me not at anywhere near the high level he's at. You don't see the guy, you go to cover the puck and the stick gets there before the glove gets down. And, yes, surprising bad break that it just went right between I didn't even know there was a gap wide enough for a puck there, and Brock just banged it through. If you're being hypercritical and breaking things down, the first goal off the rush, as much as that's a great pass by Hughes, puts it right in O'Connor's wheelhouse. Connor sort of sliding inside the post is what creates that short side space. And not, normally he'd come across, I think, and beat that on his feet. And he goes inside the post and sort of almost making contact with the post creates the gap, as opposed to sliding outside the post, beating that pass on his skates and being set and square. So again, just things that you're not used to seeing. And tip of the cap, it's a lateral play off the rush by a great defenseman in Quinn Hughes. So not being overly critical there, but I'm willing to bet that in their video breakdown, that was probably the one that they didn't love the most.
I want to get to a little bit more on Kevin with you from your goaltending background and, a couple of big picture questions. But coming out of last night's game, I mean, the Jets still have a 9-point lead on the Dallas Stars in the Central and in the West. They are highly likely to be the number one team, which means there's a likely possibility they'll be getting that second wild card. The Canucks are in it right now. 75 points. They played 68 games. The Blues are tied, but the Canucks do have a game in hand. And then there's Calgary that's played 67. So 1 game in hand on Vancouver, 2 on St. Louis. That is 2 points back. And we can't forget about Utah, but they lost ground to all 3 of those teams last night. At this point, with what you've seen, Kevin, handicap that race between those 4 teams for the that final spot. And listen, I'd say this is such a big win for Vancouver, but Calgary got one in New York last night. I mean, if they didn't get that, it would have been pretty bleak. But who do you think is most likely to win? And what is the difference going to be between those teams as to who's left standing at the end of 82?
Well, I think Calgary's going to miss Backlund. That's a tough injury for a team that, grinds and has a good defensive identity and relies heavily on Dustin Wolf, who is a great story on his own. I originally thought it was going to be Utah, and then they have a night like they did the other night, and they kind of have those moments. They've got a lot of young talent on that team, but what impresses me the most when I watch them is how committed, and I'm saying this after they got waxed 7-1, but for the most part, how committed they are defensively as a group under Andre Tournier. They've been getting exceptional goaltending from Vejmelka. His numbers are up there as good as anyone in the league when you adjust for shot quality. And I kind of just thought they might be the team that sort of catches. The difference might be, Vancouver starts a 6-game road trip Thursday in St. Louis. So that's a massive game. The difference might be strength of schedule. Like, the reality is the Blues have the easiest schedule of any team, not just in the race, but in the entire NHL the rest of the way, based on opponents and strength of schedule and results so far this season. I saw that a couple of days ago. So maybe they played a couple of the softer and maybe it shifted a little bit. But going down this stretch, they had the easiest schedule. And that honestly could be the difference. I look at Vancouver. They've got another one against Winnipeg. The Jets aren't going to let their foot off the gas in that one. They'll have their full attention when Vancouver's into Winnipeg at the end of this trip. I think they have 2 more against Dallas, 2 more against Vegas. They've got a tough schedule. The one good thing for the Vancouver Canucks is Thatcher Demko should be back soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it's relatively early on this trip. The only thing keeping him from being back into games is practice. Practice time, as you know, can be hard to come by at this point in the season. He just needs sort of, live ammunition, for lack of a better term. He needs to get in there with all 5 guys trying to defend and score at pace, finding pucks through bodies, the things that are tough to generate in practice, and you need a full team practice, sort of scrimmage style environment. He's fine with everything off the rush. Everything looks good in terms of movement. And the way he's moving, when I watched him, he had his first full morning skate yesterday, actually. And obviously it's impossible to know, but from what I saw, I think he's going to come back and be able to, within a game or two, quite quickly, find the form that he had when he got hurt on February 8th. And that was Vezina finalist Demko. Like, he had played 5 straight games where he looked like that guy. And you saw what Lankinen did last night. I mean, as much as it was a shocker at 3-2, that save off Scheifele on the rebound to his left from a sharp angle with the pad, as much as it's lunging in desperation, that keeps him from tying it. I know Ehlers hit the post shortly after that before Vancouver made it 4-2, but Lankinen's been so good for them, and yet he's never been in this position before to play this much. And there has been times as the games played have racked up where the play has slipped a little. You can see pucks bouncing off of him instead of him retaining them. Just some elements that aren't at the same level they are when he's more rested. And so getting Demko back and at the form he showed before he was hurt, not the form of earlier this season because they didn't look like the same guy, but the form the 5 games before he got hurt, they could have a really good tandem down the stretch, and that might be enough to overcome a really tough schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at St. Louis's schedule, to your point. Yeah, this Thursday night game against Vancouver, absolutely massive. They got 2 more against Nashville. They've got Chicago, Montreal, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Seattle. 2 games against Colorado. You got Winnipeg and Edmonton in there, but for the most part, some games that I think they'll be favored in most of them. And obviously they don't have the advantage with games played, but that's what makes those head-to-head games such high leverage when we start talking about the playoffs. Kev, you study goalies as well and speak about goalies as well as any. I wanted to kind of get into Connor Hellebuck's season overall and, just how special he has been this season. But tell us about practice. I mean, you kind of watch goalies in a little bit of a different way. I know you were there in the off day beforehand. What did you see from Winnipeg's goaltending tandem that would be of interest to Jet fans?
Well, the work ethic, obviously, Jets fans probably know about it from both guys, right? So with Seattle and Comrie getting pulled by the concussion spotter, I wondered if those 10 minutes that Helly was in, does it change his practice habits at all? But, they were grinding on some really tough drills that were sort of scorers drills, and they're grinding, trying to find solutions, competing with teammates, a lot of back and forth. But the thing that jumped out to me was actually early in the practice where things were sort of one end and then the other. You know how it is. Like, you get rush drills where everybody's stopping pucks at the same time. And then you get those times of practice where there's one end doing work while the other takes a break, and then it goes back the other way. And it wasn't so much what I saw, but what I heard. And I wish I should go grab one of the signed hockey sticks off the wall so I could slap it against the floor of my office like you do, when somebody makes a big save. And the goalie union guy in me, like, my ears like instantly perked up. I'm like, dude, this is like my Monday night skate or my Friday skate when the guy at the other end makes a huge save and I'm cheering him on. Like, the goalie union, we're slamming the stick, we're tapping it. And then the goalie that made the save, if he felt it was worthy enough, gave it a wave, right? And this, I know people are like, who cares? Like, what are you talking about, buddy? Like, this happens all the time. It does not. I cannot remember the last time. Like, sure, a goalie makes a big save in practice and all the players bang their sticks every once in a while, right? But the camaraderie between those two, in that practice, and talking to some people after about how that's just part of things for them was really telling. It spoke to the relationship, and I talked to Comrie a little bit about it after, and a little bit with Connor, like the relationship that they have. Like Connor kind of joked, he's like, what other guys don't like each other? I'm like, no. Like, okay, in some cases maybe, but for the most part, even the ones that get along, like they're not actively cheering each other the way. And then I talked to Comrie about how much conversation goes on in a game between them. Like when Connor's playing, coming to the bench and like breaking down plays. I used this the last time I was on with you because we had just done that big feature on his exceptional calendar year of 2024. That, that we used to say Hasek had a brain like a computer and a body like a slinky, and that I think Connor has the brain like a computer at that Hall of Fame, frankly, level, like next level, the way he sees and anticipates and reads and breaks down the game. And part of that is fueled by that dynamic of that relationship, coming to the bench and having those conversations, recognizing what truly is a difficult save at the other end. Because they weren't all the ones that, they're not the diving, desperation moments that are getting the stick taps. Some of them are just the technical and the patience to stay on a guy as he walks across the slot and not commit early and make a reactive blocker save. Those are the ones that are getting the stick taps. The ones that only the goalie geeks know are the great saves. And so when you combine that, and then the fact that they all watch video together when they break down their games, they are constantly learning off each other. And Eric Comrie, a guy who a lot of people last year were like, he's not an NHL goalie, quote unquote, which drove me nuts because of the environment in Buffalo. And, I'm giving myself back pats for, insisting he was, and I'm so happy to see him proving that in Winnipeg in a better environment. He's a part of that conversation, and he has a voice in that conversation, and they really do learn off each other because they have this in common. They all are kind of, they wear the badge proudly. I don't know if they want me to call them this, but I think they wear the goalie geek badge pretty proudly.
It's so funny that you bring up in talking about Hellebuck season, talking about Eric Comrie, because it was certainly what you said. I mean, there were a lot of people that were very skeptical that the Jets would have. I mean, listen, Laurent Brossoit set the bar very, very high with what he was able to do with Hellebuck last year. And, bringing Comrie back, everyone loved him. It was the question of, whether he'd be able to get it done on the ice. Now, he certainly has done it. He should have a much better record, too. I mean, he sort of got done dirty by the Jets during that losing streak where they were scoring a goal a game. But the combination of those two, and Hellebuck is the guy and is going to take the Jets as far as he can. It does seem like Eric Comrie has a big role in that on a day-to-day basis. Hellebuck would tell you that. I'm sure Wade Flaherty would tell you about that. But also just the unique personality that Eric Comrie is. And he's a one-of-a-kind person.
Yes.
I imagine that in a lot of ways is absolutely a perfect battery mate for Connor Hellebuck, who is a serious guy, works hard, and has so much on his shoulders. To have a light, an ultra positive guy like Eric Comrie as his running mate.
Yeah, and there's a relationship there, right? Like, and that's important. And Flats is a big part of that too, right? Like, don't lose. It's funny because it feels like not that long ago that every time I got a call to do media in Winnipeg, it was do they need to change the goalie coach? Right? Like, I remember getting those calls.
I never asked that question.
I remember getting those calls and having those conversations, and I was like, no, like, I'm watching the work they're doing. Like, Connor Hellebuck's going to be the guy. This is a special talent, and it doesn't happen with the snap of a fingers, right? Like, Wade's a big part of this. So you're absolutely right. Like, the relationship, the way they feed off each other. I'm not around it like you guys are every day. It feels like Connor is really having fun with this season. There's a relaxed and just watching that practice, right? Again, you guys may see it every day. Maybe this has been the norm for 5 years, but how much fun they were having, the interplay between them, between teammates. It was really an interesting dynamic to watch, a fun dynamic to watch. It just looked like a really healthy dynamic. And at the end of the day, none of it matters if you're not stopping the puck. And to your point, yeah, the record could be better, but Eric Comrie's adjusted save percentage right now is on the positive side of the ledger. He's above expected. Yes, the Jets are an excellent defensive environment for both guys. Eric's has been slightly harder. That's the nature of getting usually the back-to-back second half and things like that. But he's 24th in the league in adjusted save percentage. So top half of the league, right around guys like Charlie Lindgren, who, have shown they can be a number one, but are settled into a 1B role in Washington. He's posting numbers very similar to that. Kevin Lankinen, for all the attention he's gotten here for taking a step, and it really has saved the Canucks season, no questions there. But his adjusted save percentage is slightly below Eric Comrie right now. So there's a lot of other big names, like Jacob Markstrom and, even in Montreal where Sam Montembeault's had a nice breakout season. His numbers there's a lot of really big names here. And I think it would surprise people. You talked about the Dallas Stars, and what things look like in the playoffs and who's going to meet where. Like Jay Gottinger's adjusted save percentage is below Eric Comrie's right now. He's done a really nice job in a very difficult job, right? Like playing every 2 weeks or whatever it is, or in that area is not easy. You can't, no rhythm, no timing. You can really get in your own head about, if I don't play well, will I play again? I used to talk to guys around the league about this a lot because we used to have a lot of workhorses, right? Like Roberto Luongo in Vancouver plays 70 plus games and his backup would play every 3 weeks. And that's a really tough way to perform. And there's only a couple guys that are going through that right now because there's only a couple of workhorses left. And Hellebuyck is one of them. Ottinger too. Talked to Casey DeSmith about how he does. It's not like it used to be. It's not like 10 games a year, but it's still a really tough thing to do. And Eric settled into that role really nicely in Winnipeg. And again, I think that dynamic in that relationship plays a big part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, it does seem to be a perfect support, a safety net for Hellebuyck, but Hellebuyck is the guy. He's the Jets' best player. Many would say that he should be at the top of not Vezina Trophy voting, but Hart Trophy voting. It is sort of funny we're having this conversation today after arguably, one of his worst nights of the season, and there haven't been many, but his goals against average ballooned to 2.05. He's leading every statistical category in the National Hockey League and has been doing it playing as much as anybody. Just overall thoughts on the body of work that Hellebuyck has followed up his second Vezina Trophy last season with this year. And as a member of the goalie union, how much love should Connor Hellebuyck be getting when we talk about the Hart Trophy? Like, my argument is, if a goalie cannot win or be seriously considered when he is the best in everything and plays the most, basically just tell us that goalies aren't eligible for the award.
Well, it's funny because the magic number the last time Shesterkin was sort of in that conversation, I think he was flirting with 940. And that seems to be, I can't remember what Carey's was the year he won it, but save percentages come down, right? I've written articles about how teams don't waste shots anymore. We saw it last night, right? Like the Canucks had, 7 or 8 high danger, but only 21 overall. Like it used to be, you'd get 21 low danger and 7 or 8 high danger. Now you get 10 low danger and 7 or 8 high danger. So you don't get to, it's not padding your stats, but you can't compare eras because in the last 5 years, in the last 2-3 years, save percentage is coming down because teams don't waste shots. Like that's it in a nutshell. And I've had a lot of goalies. I got the numbers to back it up thanks to Clearsight Analytics. And I got a lot of goalies that have been like, I've actually had, since I wrote that story and wrote the big feature on it, and broke down the math, I've had goalies come through town and cite it to me, not realizing it's my story, for the reason that save percentage is coming down. So I don't know that you can hold that 940 bar up as the, this is what it takes to get considered. I will say this. The defensive environment in Winnipeg is excellent. It's right up there at the top of the league. The expected save percentage is really high, higher than anyone else in the league. So outside, interestingly enough, Tampa, where Vasilevsky has a similarly high, like they're really defending well. So his adjusted numbers aren't jump off the charts, clear cut. Nobody is even close in the NHL like his raw numbers are. But I do think that the way Connor plays and the confidence that his team has in him, that if they play the way they do, he's going to take care of everything else, is part of what allows them to do so. Like, I think punishing him because the defense, like, rather than punishing him because the adjusted numbers aren't as high because the defense is so good, we should be crediting him for the role he plays in sort of allowing that to happen, for a team to have the belief and the confidence and the desire to play for the guy behind them the way they do, and the unique nature of the way he sees the game, that if they know we don't give up this, we're fine, because he's going to take care of that every single time. And so the adjusted numbers aren't quite up there with Shesterkin for Hart, but I don't think in any way that should discount the role this guy plays on this team having the season they're having. And so I would be in full support of casting a ballot for Connor Hellebuyck for the Hart Trophy. I think the Vezina, like I said, despite the adjusted numbers, I think the Vezina is a slam dunk, which makes 2 in a row, very limited sort of peers in that class. And, frankly, probably just, I hesitate to say this so early. He's got so many years left, but we're feting Marc-Andre Fleury as he goes down this. If Connor and his ability to stay healthy and play this many games is also something that should be factored into the Hart. A time when goalies are dropping like flies and can't stay healthy, like that should be part of the Hart Trophy conversation, part of the Vezina Trophy conversation. I guess what I'm trying to say, and was a little sheepish about saying it, is, but this is like everything the makings of first ballot Hall of Fame. And it seems weird to say that at his age, with as much runway as he has ahead of him, especially with how remarkable the way he takes care of himself in his game and how that fits how he plays in terms of staying healthy. Like 3 Vezinas gets you there.
Just on the Vezina for a minute, I think everyone would agree Hellebuyck is a lock. Who do you think the 2 finalists will be? Or in your opinion, I mean, who are the other 2 guys? We've seen a great season from Logan Thompson. Darcy Kemper actually has had a big bounce back. You mentioned Vasilevsky. There's Shesterkin. I mean, if there's Hellebuyck, who are the next 2 guys that you think, will be on that, or at least invited to the party?
Well, if he had a tough night in Toronto the other night, and it kind of nuked his stats, but if he can regroup and steer them back and into an unlikely playoff spot, Dustin Wolf should be in this conversation. As a matter of fact, on a goals saved above expected standpoint, he's slightly ahead of Connor right now, and up until that Toronto game had actually opened up a gap. Logan Thompson leads goals saved above expected. Igor Shesterkin, it's funny because I did a Rangers hit and they're asking me what's wrong with Igor. I'm like, nothing. He has an expected save percentage of .883. When you compare that to Connor, that's 21 points lower. So if you want to do, it's not apples to apples to swap one into the other. Because like I said, like the Jets defend so well, but the way they defend is like, it just fits his game and he's a part of that. So it's, again, do not perceive this in any way, shape or form as criticism. But if you were to compare, like take Igor Shesterkin's raw numbers and add 21 points to his save percentage. Like that's in simple, oversimplified math. That's what we're talking about here. So Logan Thompson, a week ago, I would have said Dustin Wolf. That game in Toronto really killed him statistically. But if he gets back on the horse and finishes the way he's played all year, he deserves to be in that conversation. The raw numbers probably keep Shesterkin out of it. So that's probably Logan Thompson. I would go Wolf, but my hunch is that it might be a guy like Kemper, who is also having an absolutely good season. And a guy who's worked himself up there in a small sample won't be in the conversation for the Vezina, but might be the best option this summer. And he's playing unreal, and he had another unreal last night with all the goalies signing everywhere. Boy, Jake Allen might find himself the belle of the ball come unrestricted free agency.
Kevin, always great having you on the program. Appreciate you, and we'll see what happens with the Canucks, and who knows, maybe we'll get a 7-game series between the Jets and Canucks for a little all-Canadian flavor in the first round in a month or 2.
I would love the all-Canadian flavor. Might have to make a trip out to Winnipeg and see you guys in person, but I will bet the house on Connor Hellebuyck for the Vezina Trophy, but not on that one going 7 games, my friend.
Thanks for doing this, buddy. Great to talk to you as always.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate Kevin jumping on. We've got Murat Tash warming up in the bullpen. We'll bring him on in just a moment after we thank our great sponsors at Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and a huge supporter of so many things here in our city, including Winnipeg Sports Talk, and of course your Bombers, with the home of the Bombers being Princess Auto Stadium, home of the 2025 Grey Cup as well. Princess Auto's got 2 locations here in Winnipeg, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and another out in Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new for spring is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop in and see them in store or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Another great Winnipeg company that's been an amazing supporter of ours is Wallace & Wallace. Since 1946, the fencing and overhead door specialists. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, chain link, welded wire, wood fences. And if you need a new garage door, they've got the largest selection in town, which means one perfect to match your home and add value to it at the same time. Give them a call at 452-2700. Their team will be happy to come down and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them online at wallacefences.com or pop down and see them in person at their showroom on Lowson Crescent, just off of Kenaston. Spring is in the air, folks. We could maybe get it sooner than it seems to be coming, but that means you might be needing to get into the closet and change things up. If you need to up your menswear game, head on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street with custom suits beginning at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories in town. Great deals for graduates as well, where their grad special is get a suit and you'll get a free shirt and tie from F Apparel. And of course, they've got a great discount for wedding parties when you get your suits for the big day. So pop down and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. You can also check out everything they've got going on as well as their promos online at that's EPHapparel.com. And you could book yourself in to pop in for a fitting there as well. And just before we bring in Murat, cannot wait to get out to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge this summer. If you're thinking about an amazing world-class fishing trip where you can keep it Canadian and keep it in the province, Aikens is the spot. You can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, including the flight. And you'll enjoy world-class fishing, even more world-class hospitality from the incredible Turenne family and the Aikens team. Find out more about what Aikens can offer you, the Aikens experience and availability for the 2025 fishing season today at aikenslake.com, and check them out and follow them on all their social channels at Aikens Lake. All right, let's welcome in Murat Atesh from The Athletic to today's program. Murat, what's going on? How are you? Oh, hold on a sec. We've got you muted here. Is that on our end, Reem? There we go. Murat, what's up? And I think we're going to probably have the echo too.
Yeah, let me just add him in. Hold on. Okay, he's good now.
Perfect. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing all right. I was going to say it's kind of an up is down, down is up day. Connor Hellebuyck just had a bad night. I'm a little confused. Apparently my mic doesn't work. So it's a confusing time here to be a Jets analyst.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we don't need to spend too much time on Hellebuyck. I mean, he did not have one of his best games, obviously. I thought that the goal that really hurt was one that, maybe it'll happen once a year. Just the Brock Besser, tap in between his legs when it looked like he'd had the puck. Not a particularly dangerous play. But it was the timing of that one. I mean, to make it after they tied, if they got to within one, to get back to 4-2. But listen, I mean, I don't think Connor Hellebuyck was at the top of the reasons why the Jets lost that game last night. For all the good things they did offensively, this was as loose of a defensive performance we've seen in a long time, Murat. What did you think about that? And just other thoughts on the 6-2 defeat in Vancouver?
Yeah, you know what? I'll disagree on the Hellebuyck thing. I thought that even before that he sort of misplayed the cover, there was that puck that was same shift. Puck was rimmed around the boards, and he misplayed it on the end boards and probably had the opportunity to sort of kill the whole shift in the D zone before it happened. And of course, there's an amazing save he made where he dives back into his own net after a giveaway. Like, I just thought that this was one of his down nights. And I don't need to belabor it because obviously the standard for Hellebuyck is best in the world. That, like, I'm not trying to come down upon the quality of goaltender that he is. There were some pretty bad pieces of defending throughout, though. You're right. I mean, the Adam Lowry line got carved apart for 2 transition goals. You don't usually see that. Just the way they broke their shape, just the way that, especially on the first one of the 2 where they're chasing hits and they're a step behind, so they look slow. And then Fleury and Miller are backed off. You get a one-timer to O'Connor with Hellebuck moving. That's a really tough play. You don't usually see that kind of complete falling apart by that Lowry line. Yeah, Dylan DeMello easily dispossessed, right? Just a soft dump into his corner, goes to pick up the puck, and instead of that 5-foot to 10-foot pass that releases pressure that he makes at the best of his game, he absorbs contact, gives up the puck, and he's a step slow to get into the slot for the ultimate goal scorer as well. There's just moments throughout a game where every once in a while they did some really good things that completely pulled the rug out from under the quality.
Let's get to the Lowry line. And by the way, I'll throw out the why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. If you haven't seen, we've got a poll going. Should the Jets stick with Tanev, Lowry, Iafallo for next game? It was death taxes and Lowry, Niederreiter, and Appleton. But, it was an atrocious first period for that group. The numbers will tell you the same. The underlying numbers, the ugly minuses. And this hadn't actually been a new thing, Murat. As the team had been winning, we hadn't seen some of the dominance from that line. Not just last night, but over the past month or so. What have you been seeing from that Lowry line? And is it time to shake things up in the bottom 6?
Yeah, I put this in my piece today. You take the 13 games before this one, just coming out of the Four Nations break, and a line that had outscored its opponents 20-10. They got twice as many goals as the players they play against night in and night out. Well, they were actually just +3, -3 at 5-on-5. Completely average for a shutdown line that's actually been the class of the NHL in a lot of ways. And instead of getting 65%, 60% of shot attempts and all that sort of stuff to just give you a sense of their flow of play, they're kind of hovering, they were outshot during that same time period as well. In all situations, Niederreiter had a single assist in those 13 games. Mason Appleton had a goal and an assist. So, yeah, I think that they needed, and I was like, to be clear, I would have held this opinion before last night's game as well. I don't think people understand how efficient you have to play to be on that line. Like if you've played beer league hockey and, the play goes one way, you're on the attack and you put on the brakes, the play goes the other way, and you think about your back check for even a quarter second before you go the other way. That's something that the third line does like clockwork. There is no thinking. Every route is perfection. Every back check is all the way to the post. Every little bit of work, they fight for the dangerous areas in the offensive zone, the defensive zone. To my way of thinking, that's got to be exhausting. And if they're going to have a 2-week, 3-week spell like they have right now, where playing a perfect version of hockey, making all of the right decisions, back checking every time, eating crap in front of the net, both sides of the rink, and then they're going to have this level of performance for a while, I think they need a break. I think that they definitely do, maybe even from the severity of the role, but at least a mix-up of lines. And when you see Brandon Tanev step in there and Alex Iafallo step in there, both players who have a lot more going for them, just in recent times, than Appleton and Niederreiter do. And for me, it's a no-brainer. Give these guys a few games just to like let the pressure off. Let these guys breathe for a few seconds.
Well, you know what, for sure. And a lot comes with playing with Adam Lowry, as you mentioned. And, listen, they have been in some ways maybe victims of their own success. Much like we talked about with Connor Hellebuck, the bar for the Lowry line has been significant, and they've been a huge part of the Jets' success so far this year. So when you go into a period where, you can handle maybe the offense not happening because there's so many other things that they do well, but when the defense starts slipping and you start getting burned on the rush the way they were last night, it seemed like that was the nudge forward for something that Scott Arniel and the coaching staff, I'm sure, have been thinking about, but maybe avoiding doing for the last few games. Maybe the most concerning part about it was just how badly they got burned on the rush. And to be honest, Murat, the goal, when we do the autopsy on last night's game, we can talk about some missed opportunities that the Jets had, that, maybe things would have been different. But that series of plays in the final 20 seconds of the first period, to me, was really the undoing for the Winnipeg Jets, because they played very well to get back in. They'd had a ton of chances. Ehlers had scored. It's 2-1, even after Vancouver, scored that goal. And it was a giveaway. And then Vancouver basically took it back into their zone. And in, I think, about 6 seconds, moved it all the way down the play and bashed it in on a in the blue paint right in front of Connor Hellebuyck. And again, those are not the sort of plays that we're used to seeing when the captain's been on the ice with his line mates.
Yeah, it's the opposite of that perfect hockey that I was talking about. It's like, you think that it's safe, you have possession, great, okay, you lose it, that happens sometimes. But then to let Vancouver reload and then lose shape so badly, it's just a reload and a couple of, like, a stretch pass, another pass, and all of a sudden all three forwards are beat. They isolate, I think it's Sandberg was the defender who they sort of were able to pass around. He was the only one in the right spot by the end of that rush. And to go from control to even a situation of lack of control where the puck is a million miles away from danger, these are the guys you trust to be in the right spots to hold their shape. And for them to sort of, I don't know if it's, you would call it losing their focus. Either way, they lost their shape, their position, they gave up the zone, and then to give up that goal. I agree, that was a dagger for them. That's the antithesis of the way that they're expected to play and have played for the overwhelming majority of the season. So you head into that break and you're wondering, is this going to break the Jets back on this particular night, or is it going to be a wake-up call? And ultimately, they weren't able to come back from it.
Another reason why I have a lot of time for this move is, listen, Brandon Tanev is not going to be a guy that's scoring 30 goals, but the energy that he brings to the game can definitely change momentum. And listen, he has been, like, even on the fourth line when they were playing with Morgan Barron, those guys were doing a great job of spending more time on the other team's end and really generating some significant offensive opportunities. But the biggest reason I like this is more Alex Iafallo. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been underused, but I think he's shown that he can fit in a number of different areas. And as we get closer to the playoffs, his game seems to be, well, going in the opposite direction of a Nino Niederreiter or a Mason Appleton right now. So thoughts on the fit of those two players too with Adam Lowry, because, as we go into this game at Edmonton tomorrow, I sort of expect that we'll see this again. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a runway and it really does create some competition for ice time playing alongside the captain, because he's going to be out there for significant and high leverage minutes.
Yeah, to the degree that, I would suggest Niederreiter and Appleton could use just a breath from that role, a break from that role. I think that Alex Iafallo has shown that he can handle just about any role that the Winnipeg Jets give him. And that's a bit of a luxury to have on your fourth line. And Brandon Tanev, I'm with you. I think over a long stretch of games, Tanev's results may start to waver, but his energy won't. And, for a bit of an Energizer Bunny approach to that third line, somebody who does, who doesn't stop, I guess. I was going to try to find a different way to say that. Brandon Tanev is that guy, and has, credit to him for the deflection he made on the way to Alex Iafallo's goal last night too. I mean, that's a great play. So I have a lot of time for that. If you compare the Jets to other great teams as well, like what you find is, let's talk about Edmonton tomorrow. There's only one Connor McDavid in the world. There's only one Leon Draisaitl. And there are other elite teams that have players like that. The Nathan McKinnons or Jack Eichels, to point at recent playoff opponents that Winnipeg has. Winnipeg doesn't have that. But what it does have is sort of a top nine, even the bottom six, a whole bunch of forwards who can do so many different things well. Your fourth line is better than the average fourth line on a great team. Your third line is better than an average third line. And so when you have an opportunity or a need for somebody like Iafallo and Tanev to step into a role, you know that they can do it. The strength of the Winnipeg Jets is the diversity and quality of their depth. And other teams can't really roll with that in a lot of ways. So when a need happens, like what's happening right now, there's no better team than the Jets to bring somebody up from the fourth line to the third, because all those players have the qualities that you would like in those situations.
While we're talking about the fourth line for a minute, how have you liked Morgan Barron at center?
I mean, I'm still learning about Morgan Barron at center, to be honest. I My hot take is positive. Like I like his combination of size and speed. I haven't found him to be a bother on the draws or anything to that effect. I think he's a responsible player. It's been during this stretch also that he gave us the highlight reel spinning pass that I think it was Kyle Connor who finished on that incredible breakaway. I know that wasn't his standard role, but we've gotten to see a nice highlight reel play from Barron in this time. So right now, I guess, the hot take is that vibes are good for me. I believe in Barron as a player. And I'm still sort of gathering is this the ultimate situation? Is it about time Kupari gets back in? All that sort of stuff. It's just another testament to the number of quality players Winnipeg has in that area.
Yeah, well, and you know what? I think that these final, what do we got? 13 games left for the Winnipeg Jets. 69 games played. So yeah, 13 more games. Obviously, you're going to want to, win what you need to do to get first place. But I wouldn't at all be surprised to see a few different looks. Barron maybe back on the wing at times. A couple guys get some nights off. Get Kupari, get Gustafsson back in. Because I think it's pretty clear what the top six is going to be. But considering the recent play of the Lowry line, the change we saw last night, if there is going to be tinkering, Murat, that third and fourth line, including a couple guys that have been out of the lineup, I think we could see some different looks over the course of the last 13.
Yeah, I 100% believe that a return to Lowry, Niederreiter, and Appleton is plan A and B heading into the playoffs. But, you need different looks available. There are going to be moments, shifts, games where it's not there. And if the guys that you're asking to shuffle lines in that moment haven't seen each other for the last 3 months, it's a difficult proposition compared to if you've taken a proper look at them now. And the same thing for me goes to your point about bringing Kupari and Gustafsson, et cetera, back into the lineup. I think that any team that has ever gone deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and by deep, I mean Stanley Cup finals type of performance, they're relying on well over 12 forwards, well over 6 defensemen. Often they're unsung heroes. And often those players, you will get a big game from somebody who sits as your 13th forward or 7th defenseman right now. To that end, I don't think you can have them running into the playoffs in a situation of complete rust and disuse down the stretch run. I think you have to get them in here or there. The Jets will decide whether that's right away now that this Lowry line is having some struggles and it gives them a pretense. It might also just be an April thing if and perhaps when they've got their Central Division seed locked up as they hope to have it.
Murat's latest is up at The Athletic on analyzing Jets trends going into the final 13 games of the season with the playoffs right around the corner. And one of those topics is the penalty killing unit. We knew that part of the goals of the additions of Brandon Tanev and Luke Schenn was to shore up the PK unit. And, it's been easy to just kind of look at Jets special teams and think, well, they're way up on most of their competition on the back of the power play, Murat. But we know how important penalty killing is come playoff time. Where are we at right now with the current PK and what needs to improve as we get towards game 83?
Yeah, the overall trend for the Jets PK has been a slight improvement over the course of the season, which I think sometimes gets lost. Last night they gave up a goal in Vancouver's one opportunity, so it's hard to really be celebrating right in this second. It was just a great deflection from Brock Besser. So what are you going to do, sort of, in that situation? You might have tried to front it or something like that, but there are other threats available at the time too. The overall trend is a slight positive, and it's brought Winnipeg into kind of average as far as penalty kills go. And given the way that they started and a big dip that they took when Dylan Samberg broke his foot, this is actually kind of good news in a way, the overall trend. Some of the changes that they've made, obviously heading into the year without Brendan Dillon, you needed a solution. Samberg and Dillon had taken the bulk of the minutes on the left side last year. DeMello and Pionk were the bulk of the minutes on the right side. Well, without Dillon, you lose probably your biggest crease clearer, and you have to figure something else out. So you've seen Hayden Fleury step into that spot. You've seen Logan Stanley do it, especially when Samberg was hurt. Neither one of those players have gotten great results, to be honest. So what you've also seen in kind of different stretches of the season is Josh Morrissey spending an extra amount of time on the penalty kill. He's averaging just over 40 seconds per night this year, and that happens in 2 very specific chunks of the season compared to, I think it was 7 seconds last year and the year before. He barely PK'd during those enormous offensive explosion years. And that was, it was a thoughtful thing to do when you had Dillon available in that spot and you could really push Morrissey's offense. I think he's too fast and his reads are too good so that even if he gives up size and even if you wish that he was only ever in an offensive situation, on this iteration of the Winnipeg Jets, you have to look at other options behind Samberg because Fleury hasn't particularly got it done. Stanley hasn't particularly got it done. The one thing I'm sure everybody's curious about is what does Luke Schenn's numbers, what do they look like so far right now? And so far, his impact on shot quality has been incredible. In an obviously small sample size, it's only been a few games. It's been really hard for other teams to get chances from the dangerous areas of the ice with Schenn on the ice on the PK. As it happens, though, just because of a bounce and a goal, his goals numbers are horrible in this small sample size, despite a great impact in terms of shot quality. I really can't emphasize that enough. I think he's been at exactly as advertised, clearing the slot, making it hard for players to be there, tying up sticks, all that sort of stuff. And to that effect, I think that he's been an intelligent ad by the Winnipeg Jets at the trade deadline.
Speaking of Schenn, listen, last night was what it was. Wasn't one of the Jets' best performances. They were playing catch up most of the time. But I think we really saw the blueprint for the Winnipeg Jets as currently constructed post-trade deadline in that game against the Dallas Stars, the huge game Friday night at Canada Life Center. And, Schenn's impact, I think, was felt, early on in the game. And as I said on Monday's show, I'm not sure whether this was shown on television, but in the first period, Schenn went at it with Mikko Rantanen, and Rantanen ended up in the back of the Winnipeg Jets net as the play was going down the other end. And, he kind of came out, said something to the referee, and then didn't spend very much time in a place that he spends a lot of time usually, and where he scores a lot of his goals. And then in front of the Jet net, the other takeaway from that game, Murat, was just how clean everything was in front of Connor Hellebuyck. Have you noticed the effect that Schenn has had just on the front of the net, which I think pretty much was a place that the Jets got absolutely torched by Colorado last year in the playoffs, with how that's changed since he's basically replaced Logan Stanley in the top six?
Yeah, I saw that exact same situation. I hope it was shown on TV, but where he sort of threw Rantanen into the net and the play continues, that was wonderful. And then I asked Scott Arniel about his impact, and he said something he said before, which is players often take the long way around to get to that line. So I like that. There's another situation, actually, 2 plays of Mikko Rantanen that I'm a bit obsessed by. I included clips of them in my Monday piece, even though the camera didn't get the best angle of it. So please let me obsess over this. This is first period. It's against Dallas. It's a defensive zone draw, 2 different defensive zone draws to the left of Connor Hellebuyck. Now, you know that Schenn is right-handed. You know that Samberg is left-handed. But the way that they aligned on the face-off, it was actually Luke Schenn on the left wing boards. And who was on that side of the ice for Dallas but Mikko Rantanen? One face-off, Adam Lowry on the draw, one towards the boards. Rantanen doesn't have a play on it because Luke Schenn has immediately boxed him out along the boards. Camera angles didn't show it very well, but from where we were situated in the ice, it was a perfect box out, great read of the face-off, eliminated Rantanen from the play. Protects the puck, who gets the puck, but Dylan Samberg, they coordinate a breakout, boom. They're moving towards the other end of the ice. I think that's the shift. Nope, that's not it. This next shift, same exact face-off situation. The next time that they're out there, it's Schenn versus Rantanen. Face-off is won again to the boards. I think by Morgan Barron in this situation. It's the 4th line. And this time Rantanen is almost anticipating the box out, but what happens? Luke Schenn fronts him, gets to the puck first, coordinates a breakout. They go the other way. By the end of that shift, that was the Brandon Tanev breakaway where he puts a backhand over the bar. But these 2 simple, hard plays by Luke Schenn helped change the nature of puck possession for the shifts that he was out there for. He does that in front of the net as well. And I think that one of the best surprises, though Scott Arniel and others have told us about this even before we saw it, is that Luke Schenn makes really heads-up plays in terms of where he's putting the puck to coordinate a breakout. He releases pressure really well. If he's got the puck under pressure, he'll put it to his teammate, the teammate in the best spot with less pressure on him. And this is this is something that's going to help him in addition to all of the delightful violence in front of Connor Hellebuck that helps keep that area clear as well.
Yeah, he has been everything that has been advertised and more so far, and I can't wait to see the effect he can have on that Jet Blue line come playoff time. You know, this has been a magical season for the Jets. They are poised to potentially set a new high water mark for Winnipeg Jet teams. They could conceivably, very possibly, win the President's Trophy. Most importantly, they're looking at that number 1 seed. And throughout the year, we've talked about Kyle Connor in the running with Leon Draisaitl's kind of running away with the goals right now. But goals, he's been, one of the top point scorers. You've got Josh Morrissey, who certainly there would be an argument to make him a finalist in the Norris conversation. Hellebuck's going to win the Vezina and should, in all likelihood, be a Hart Trophy finalist and could potentially win it, depending on what happens. The one trophy we really haven't mentioned very much, and you brought this up in your article today, is Scott Arniel and the Jack Adams and the Coach of the Year award. Now, sometimes it can be a bit of a kiss of death of this award if you look so far. So I'm not sure whether that is much of importance to him, but you make some great points, and maybe for our listeners, make a little bit of the case for not overlooking the incredible coaching job of Arniel and his staff in the success of this year's number 1 team.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think the Coach of the Year award, the Jack Adams, often goes to the team that outperforms expectations by the most.
Big time.
It's whatever we all thought of them. They did way better than that. Okay, it must be their coach. That's the situation. And so when you tune into discussions about this, and we had a piece about it, other sites have had pieces about it, Vegas has set its odds in a particular way as well, it seems like there's only 2 coaches that have a reasonable shot at the Jack Adams award this year, and that's Spencer Carberry in Washington, because of the way that they were a bubble team last year and they're flirting with first place just like the Jets are, and Dean Evison in Columbus, where I think a lot of people thought Columbus would be a bottom feeder, and they've done something really special, competed for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make it, but they have every shot and opportunity. And it seems as though those are the only 2 guys everybody's thinking about. But if you go back to the offseason discussion about the Winnipeg Jets, I think that, my own opinion was, okay, well, 110 points from the year before. Look, that 5-on-5 performance was almost too good. It's going to regress a little bit. It's going to step back. I think the power play is going to get better because it was so bad for most of last season, and maybe that'll even it out. But geez, 110 points, that's a lot. That's too hard for this team to get to. Well, they're on pace for 116, and they're on pace for the President's Trophy and all of that sort of stuff. So if you're going by expectations compared to results, and if you need a playoff team for it, and if you need to be able to point to specific coaching impacts, i.e. the power play, which Davis Payne deserves lots of credit for as well. That's under his umbrella. Well, why not the Winnipeg Jets? And why shouldn't there be a field way bigger than just the 2 guys, Carberry and Evison, that everybody's talking about? For me, there is an obvious third member of that trio. And whether Arniel wins it or not, he has to be included in that group of coaches who have had an impact on a team, and they've dramatically outperformed the offseason expectations. For me, that's the award. That's how they give it out. And if he's not on the podium for that, even in a number 3 role, I think that it'll be an enormous miss on the point of the NHL.
I can't disagree with you. And, we just had Kevin Woodley on, and, it was really interesting talking, about Hellebuck and the season that Hellebuck's had and his goals saved above expected. Tied into that number is the fact that the Jets have played so well in front of Connor Hellebuck that the expected goals against is far lower for the Winnipeg Jets than it is for most other teams in the NHL. And when you have that sample, not over 10 games, but over 69 so far, you have to give a ton of credit to the players that are executing the plan, but also the individuals on the bench that are putting together the framework of a system that can help the team succeed in the fashion that it has.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know which models or numbers Kevin Woodley was looking at, but he's great. He's phenomenal. So when I look at the publicly available stuff like a natural stat trick or a money puck or an evolving hockey, Winnipeg's given up fewer expected goals per minute at 5-on-5 this year than last year. So we were already talking about the Jennings Trophy and a great defense and all that sort of stuff last year. Well, they got better than that. And so I think that, that should dovetail into a Connor Hellebuyck conversation, because a lot of people outside of Winnipeg think, oh, well, Hellebuck's carrying this team. And that's not an accurate view if you look at how consistent things have been in front of him for most games. So that's one thing. But also on a team that doesn't have, a Patrice Bergeron, an Alexander Barkov, a Mark Stone, these players who have been in Selke conversations for their whole lives. Adam Lowry finished 7th last year, so credit to him there. You have a group of players who have committed to contribute to this. This is a systems thing. It's a structure thing. It's a leaning on the third line for most of the season thing as well. But it's not as though they just, airlifted some sort of defensive superstar onto the team. This is a collective effort. And again, coaching deserves a piece of that as well.
I'm just looking, speaking of the goals against, and even with giving up a half a dozen last night, the Jets are still 10 goals better than the Los Angeles Kings, and the Kings still have to play 3 more games that the Jets have already played. Washington has given up 14 more and has a game in hand, and the Dallas Stars have given up 15 more and have 2 games in hand. It would be surprising if the Jets don't win another Jennings Trophy. And again, as great as the goaltender has been and continues to be, this is a win for the entire team, all of the players in front of them. But I think there is an argument to be made that maybe a lot of people haven't been paying attention to, that the coaching has been a huge, huge part of it. Hey, Murat, just before we get to tomorrow's game, Remis just passed me on something from that Mike just popped up from Jason Gregor in Edmonton. And going into this highly anticipated matchup between the Oilers and the Jets tomorrow, Chris Knobloch said he's not sure what his lines will be tomorrow, as some of the guys who didn't skate, that would be Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl included in that group, are banged up and might not play. Might be a little bit of a buzzkill if we don't get to see Draisaitl and McDavid going up against Hellebuyck. And again, this is a game, both these teams comfortably in their playoff positions. It's kind of more of a view of what is to come. But I was sort of hoping to see the best of the Edmonton Oilers and the best of the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow night. Although, be careful what you wish for, I guess, when we're talking about those guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, the excitement of this time of year is you're sizing up, how is this team going to do in 7 games? And if you're really honestly trying to size them up, you're trying to imagine the best of your team and the best of the other team. And so from my point of view, yeah, if you're a Jets fan, you want to see how the Jets stack up when Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are in the lineup, the same way that you hoped. Maybe you don't hope this, but I was going to say the same way you hoped Roope Hintz and Miro Heiskanen and Tyler Seguin were in that Dallas Stars lineup last week as well. Like, if you're imagining going toe-to-toe with the team when the games matter, you have to imagine them at their best, or else, I don't think that you've got all of the information. I know regular season doesn't always, the season series doesn't always go into the playoff series as well. We saw that with Colorado last year. But when you're sizing up those matchups, you want to see, well, okay, if Lowry and Tanev and Alex Iafallo are playing together tomorrow, well, what can they do against McDavid or Draisaitl or whatever the matchup's going to be? So, I mean, just for the sake of the quality on the television, I hope that everybody's healthy and can play. If not, I'm sure the Jets will enjoy the added odds of 2 points and a game that they, could definitely use to get that momentum back.
Folks, get on over to The Athletic. Murat's latest on the Winnipeg Jets is up. Some great stuff on Cole Perfetti's emergence as well. Analyzing Jets trends. It is up right now at theathletic.com. Murat, have yourself a great day, and we'll look forward to catching up next week.
Sounds good, Hess. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. There's Murat. Again, give him a follow on X as well at WPG Murat. We're going to talk about a huge event coming this summer. That's the CEBL Championship with the Commish in just a second. Shout out to our friends at Royal Sports who are ready for spring as the seasons change. They got all the Jays gear coming up for opening day next week in the majors, although there have been 2 games played in Japan. But, of course, they're also gearing up for playoffs with Merch coming in by the day, lots in white to get Winnipeggers ready to get out to Canada Life Centre or into the streets of Winnipeg and party like no other fan base does in the National Hockey League come playoff time. Of course, you can also finish up the hockey season with the biggest selection of hockey equipment around. The bikes are coming in for spring as well. And so many cool things over on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side. Popeye Royal Sports, the one-of-a-kind sports superstore in Winnipeg. Family-owned for over 50 years. 750 Pembina Highway. Give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Royal Sports Winnipeg, for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And, of course, Boston Pizza Gang, tomorrow is the place to be. We are going to be getting together with WSTers and Jet fans at Boston Pizza Garden City for a Jets watch party for that big game against the Edmonton Oilers. So join us, BP Garden City, tomorrow, 8 p.m. is puck drop. We'll have some special prizes to give away. We'll do some fun contesting and trivia in between periods. And most importantly, get together like we did earlier this season at BP Polo for that great game and a packed house with WSTers for the Detroit Red Wings tilt. So tomorrow night, we'll see you at BP. BP's the place to go for every Winnipeg Jet game with pick-a-player contests at your local. But if you can join us on McPhillips, we'd love to see you tomorrow night. And, of course, that is with our friends at Little Brown Jug, who are now available at select Boston pizzas, including Polo Park and now Boston Pizza Garden City. Just before we bring in Mike McIntyre, speaking of Little Brown Jug, here's a big cheers to you from our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in CEBL commish Mike Morreale back to the program. Mike, what's going on? It's great to catch up again. How are you? How's the off season going?
It's been a long off season, but I'm excited to be back.
Hold on one sec. We just got an echo on you. We'll just get that fixed up right away.
We're good.
We're going to be getting to lots of excitement about the upcoming season and, of course, the culmination of the season, which will be right here in Winnipeg. But before we talk about all of that, I mean, you mentioned it's a long off season. The growth of the league the last couple of years, certainly we've seen it front and center here in Winnipeg with the establishment of the Sea Bears and the success that they've had. But, man, it seems like there's been so much momentum for the sport and for this league. I'm sure you just can't wait to get going on with another season of the CEBL.
Well, I tell you, the off season when the real work gets done as we prepare for the season. I am looking forward to the season. I cannot wait to get out and watch some basketball and get to every market, including Winnipeg, which is just an amazing place to watch professional basketball in the CEBL. What an environment that's been created there by the fans and by David Asper and the players. We try to continue to make really good adjustments every off season and try to get better. We're successful this year in selling 2 more of our existing teams to private owners, one in Montreal and one in Brampton. You may know the guy in Brampton. He's got the same last name as the guy in Winnipeg.
Yeah, Len so getting really in the mix.
We're excited about that, and just getting better overall. Just better on the court, better off the court. We're very happy with how far we've come. But we also know that, there's a lot more room to grow and a lot more fans to watch our games and to, take in a game live or on one of our broadcast partners. And really our outreach to as many fans as possible is the most important thing, because we know the trajectory of basketball in Canada is huge. It rises every year. And we want to be on the forefront of that and leading by example.
You mentioned the teams and then the television. I was reading somewhere. I mean, do CEBL fans have something to look forward to when it comes to the TV coverage as it continues to expand for the upcoming year?
Yeah, we certainly have our existing partnership with TSN, which will have 17 linear games and all 127 on TSN Plus. We have our own platform at CEBL Plus, where you can view 127 games anywhere in the world. And then we continue to add more options. Game Plus is coming on board again. They're picking up. We've announced about 30, 35 games, so that could be upwards of 50 or 60. And then we have our partners in the U.S. as well in NLSC, which will pick up 40 games. So, exposure is really important. Broadcast is incredibly important, all levels of broadcast, not just linear television sitting at home in front of a TV, but access to it on your phone and anywhere you go on the go anytime. So we have continued to develop that side of our business. We're looking forward to, growing and expanding that beyond this season, as well as our rights deals kind of come to an end and we start to look towards what's next. So that's part of the growth and what we continue to want to do. We really believe that, exposing our brand, exposing our talent on the court, the entertainment value off the court to more people will allow more people to become fans of the CEBL and fans of our independent teams and individual teams in all their markets. So, basketball being a global game, we're not just restricted to Canada. We play at a time of year, on purpose, that allows us access to, exposure all over the world when it's really a downtime for professional basketball.
It was a perfect time having you on today because, just as we went on the air, the league announced an innovation to its roster rules with the designated player rule to continue to kind of attract elite talent. Tell us about what the change is and what you hope it'll do to the quality of the product.
Well, I think that's where we've seen the biggest growth is the on-court talent. From 2019 through to now, it's exponentially grown, and it was never bad to begin with. So I think that's the great part. What we've been able to do is just attract more talent and have more opportunities at the team level to pick the players that they believe are going to be vital parts of the on-court product. The salary cap has grown by 68% since 2019. And then we've tweaked how we allow our teams to play within the rules of the salary cap. So the designated player rule is the newest opportunity, and that's to bring in a player outside of the cap. It has a broader per game salary cap base to attract different types of talent. But what it also does, along with our U Sports relationship or our CCAA included, it allows those teams that choose to employ the Simon Hildebrands of the world, let's say, for them to play, obviously be big contributors to the team in the local market, but those salaries of the developmental type players that I'm speaking about are outside the cap as well. So when you look at the designated player rule, which sits outside the cap, the utilization of the developmental players on every roster outside the cap, now you're looking at a smaller amount of professionals under a larger cap, which then allows for more opportunities for GMs to work into their roster selection, attract more high-end talent, compensate players that have maybe been there year after year and be able to retain them and bring them back. So all those things are done specifically to provide really smart opportunities and different ways of approaching your individual cap. And I'm not sure a lot of people understand how we do that, but there's a league-wide cap on an annual season basis. There's a per-game cap. And then there's room within that per-game cap, if you're playing under it, to have that accumulated bonus pool roll forward game by game and provide more access to dollars when you need it to maybe attract certain players or retain certain players at certain points of the year.
Mike Morreale, CEBL commissioner, is with us. You mentioned Simon Hildebrand, and we're all fired up for tomorrow morning. He's going to be playing with his squad in March Madness, and we just had him on last week. I was disappointed to know that he may have to take a 1-year sabbatical from the CEBL because of his NCAA eligibility, which seems bizarre to me at a time when NIL is wide open and guys are getting paid tons of money to play a variety of college sports. Is that sort of cut and dry? Are you guys working with the NCAA at all on that? I'm just wondering if there's anything you can add to that for Seabears fans that hope that one of our homegrown stars might be able to be in the lineup this year after he finishes with the Madness.
We are certainly working on it, and anybody that understands the NCAA, it is a big, big, big machine.
Oh, yeah.
They do not make decisions very quickly or easily, and a lot of those decisions actually come from the team level or the conference level. So we've had plenty of discussions at the team levels. They're certainly engaged in what we're doing. They would love to see this roll into some sort of NIL program, so to speak, and not just to bring the Simon Hildebrands back. Of course, we want that to happen, but also to attract some of the underclassmen, Canadian NCAA underclassmen that we would love to bring back home under the same type of deals we offer for our current U Sports and CCAA players. And, the landscape is changing every day. We're working on it. I don't see a short-term fix, to be honest, but we've had some success the other way. So when a Simon Hildebrandt leaves the CEBL to go to the NCAA, typically in years past, that was a non-starter. It never would have happened. They would have been sitting out for a year, but we've worked proactively with those programs and allowed, someone like Simon, and we had 3 other players that in similar circumstances, to eliminate or limit any sort of restrictions on them moving from the CEBL to the NCAA. And we were successful doing that. And I think our hope is that will reverse itself coming back this way, but it's going to take some time. So I would say for a 2025 upcoming season, it's highly unlikely that we'll be able to do that. And it's unfortunate, but we do celebrate the fact that players like Simon, who, grew up in the system here, are able to get to where they want to go to, and we can help facilitate that.
Now, Mike, we also this week got some details on tickets for CEBL Championship weekend, and sounds like we're planning on making that the biggest party of the summer in downtown Winnipeg. Give us a little taste of what you guys have been working on and what we as Winnipeggers and Manitobans should look forward to later on in August when the CEBL's best come to Winnipeg to crown a champion.
Well, you've got an exciting, rest of 25 with us coming with the championship weekend, and then of course the Grey Cup coming. The beauty of our championship weekend's in the summer, so we're going to really take advantage of that in all the great areas in and around downtown to promote Canadian basketball, to promote the CEBL. Obviously, the games are kind of the drawing cards on the Friday and Sunday. But it's the interaction and the events that are going to happen around the proximity of the arena to, the Dale Howardchuck area and downtown corridors. What we found in our time in Winnipeg, it has really celebrated what we have created here at the league level. And certainly David and his team have amplified that on the backs of just great fans and great partners. So the city has gotten involved. The province has gotten involved. Local people are stepping up to want to really celebrate this, and I'm just excited to see that atmosphere downtown for those 4 days that we're in town, really having commissioners breakfasts and luncheons and award shows and the games and after parties and festivals and concert series and a lot more announcements will be coming in the near future on the talent that we're bringing in. We want this to be a first-class event. And everything that's happened so far over the last couple of years in Winnipeg has been first class. So we expect this one to be the biggest and best by far that we've ever done, and to the benefit of not only the players and everyone from our perspective, but to the local community, and everybody's getting behind what we've done.
Now, tickets are available right now for championship weekend. Basketball Manitoba put something out, certainly through the CBears. You can click on the link and count yourself in. And Mike, if you could confirm, I know there'd been talk about changing sort of the playoff format, but for this year, listen, we want the CBears to roll everybody and roll in as the number 1 team in the league, but because they are the host, we will see the CBears in that championship weekend, hopefully playing not once but twice, which would mean they're in the championship game.
100%. We took kind of that Memorial Cup-like approach when we designed this initially. It doesn't mean it's going to last forever, but certainly as we approach this event, the CBears will be playing in that conference final on the Friday night, and it is going to be electric. I imagine it will be a sellout, and it'll be loud, and that'll carry over into the 2 days later on the Sunday, and as a wear my league hat for a minute. Having the home team in it doesn't hurt. I can't choose sides, that's for sure. But really, it's part of the celebration of basketball and ensuring that the local community has an extra reason to come out and support it. It's not a slam dunk, no pun intended, for the team that hosts, because there's a lot of pressure. Even though they know that the final destination, the tune-up to get ready for that conference championship and the way they get into the play during the season and get into the playoffs is not easy. So, locally, it's going to be a lot of fun. Our teams, we go from east to west, so our conferences know that there's an advantage to one over the other, and they're totally fine with it. They're willing to strap everything on and get ready to go and try to earn their spot the best they can. And that added pressure of reduced amount of spots, let's say this year in the Western Conference, makes for a really, really entertaining year and a really entertaining stretch down the end.
I'm just looking at the site right now. They've had a great kickoff to sales, but there still are some great seats, on the sides, kind of on that court side. But I would suggest people jumping on those because we know Winnipeg shows up for big events, and we know how successful and loved the Sea Bears have been. This is definitely going to be a place where sports fans around here are going to want to be at. And the sooner you jump on it, the better your seats are going to be. Mike, before we leave, obviously we're all in right now on this great season the Jets are having and the upcoming Stanley Cup playoffs and the Bombers, they've got the draft and whatnot. But just give us an idea again, because the team is new and a lot of people sort of discovered it even late last season. The timelines moving forward. What are the key dates coming up for the CEBL and the Sea Bears before we get tip off and we get back down to Canada Life Centre and pack the rink like no other fan base in the CEBL has been doing?
Yeah, we're a couple months away, or less than a couple months. Our opening night's May 11th. So training camp, depending on the start date of the respective teams, are going to be early in May, mid-May. And this year we have a 24-game season. So, we've listened to the fans. The fans wanted more basketball. We're happy to deliver more basketball. So instead of the 10 home game stretch, there's going to be 12. In this case, in Winnipeg's case, 13 for sure. So, jump on those tickets right away. Certainly we've seen a huge response locally. And there's just a lot of good things happening. The regular season will go until the first week and a half of August, and then right into single elimination playoffs until championship weekend. And if people aren't aware of what championship weekend is, it's the Final Four meets the Grey Cup. It's got everything that's great about the Grey Cup festival and the entertainment and everything wrapped around in this case, Canadian basketball, but it has that competition of the Final Four and the single elimination games, and everything is on the line, anything goes. So if you're a basketball fan and root for whatever team, it doesn't matter. I think being in that market come, the third week of August, it's going to be an exciting time for fans just to enjoy great basketball and enjoy great entertainment and be part of something special.
Yeah, with the two games on Friday and the championship on Sunday, I think Friday will be unbelievable, and I have a feeling there'll be a big-ass party downtown on Saturday as we get ready.
Better believe it.
For the big game. Mike, always great catching up. A continued success to you and everyone at the league. We can't wait for Sea Bears season, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Winnipeg in not too long.
Not too long at all. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
Take it easy. There's Mike Morreale, the commissioner of the CEBL. Wow, May 11th. I kind of remembered maybe they started on the road, but it kind of was more like around May long last year. But I'm here for it. And I love the fact we got an extra couple of games because, the Sea Bears games have been so much fun and such a great addition to the sporting community here in the city of Winnipeg. All right, let's get to fan feedback for fans first. And we're already looking ahead to this big game tomorrow against the Edmonton Oilers. And we had the poll out for our fans first fan feedback. And of course, fans first, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. What you see is what you pay. No fees on top of your ticket price. And certainly if you've got extra tickets and you need to sell them, it is the best place to do that with great customer service and immediate payment directly into your account the next business day after the game. Here's what people are feeling about tomorrow's game. The confidence level for a Jets win tomorrow against the Edmonton Oilers. Cautiously optimistic is 48%. Very confident is 38%. 11% a bit worried. And the old 1%, no confidence. I have a feeling that confidence level may change depending on a couple of those roster moves that we just mentioned. Potential roster moves, including questionable designations for Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, of all people. But you can keep your thoughts and all your takes coming on last night's game and tomorrow in the chat. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. You know, Reem, I was saying to the fellas last night watching the game as the final minutes dwindled down, if the Jets were going to have an off night, are going to have a dud this week, I was preferring it to be last night because I think there's a possibility these teams, if things go well, could see each other in the playoffs. And we got a lot of friends in Edmonton with what we do here. It's always fun when the Oilers and Jets get together. So they've done a very good job of bouncing back from underwhelming performances so far this year, and I expect the same tomorrow night, led by the guy that'll almost assuredly be in the net, Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, I mean, the last time they had a kind of dud performance and they got called out by the coach, it was against Utah, and then after that they had a 11 game, or how many games was that win streak? Got crazy. Went after the break to go to 13?
It went to
11?
11.
Yeah, 11. So who knows? Maybe it's just the start of another win streak. Can't win every game. There's some things you would have liked to see, but what I don't want to see is all these people from Edmonton Sports Talk trying to get in on the marble race here on Friday, which they normally do, and chirping everyone in our chat about an Oilers win. I don't want to see that, Huss. So we'll have to, hopefully there's
someone in the lock shop. I had someone during the lock shop today try to take a little swing at Connor Hellebuyck, at me and Connor Hellebuyck. And I said, listen, you people in Edmonton should not be talking about playoff Hellebuyck anything. Because if you recall, the last time these two teams met in the playoffs, you saw what playoff Hellebuyck was all about. And that was 3 overtime wins, a triple overtime win, and Winnipeg getting the brooms out to sweep the Edmonton Oilers. Now, that was then, this is now, but both of these teams are going to need to be at their best if we want to get to a potential lock shop bowl in the West Final.
So you were in the lock shop, and Edmonton fans were like, "Oh, playoff Hellebuyck sucked last year so bad," and you were just like, "Remember the series that no one was in attendance for?"
That's exactly what I did, and we rolled it out. 3 overtime wins. Maybe you remember triple overtime. Does the name Kyle Connor remember you? I mean, I really had some fun with it. But again, like last year, I get it. And this is something the Jets have been living with all season long. The disappointment of the last 2 playoffs, but especially last year with just how poorly it went. Was something they're going to have to, prove people wrong. They've been doing it throughout 69 games this season. It's been nice. They've got 13 more, and then the true litmus test is going to happen come Stanley Cup playoffs. But I think this team has, listen, if you followed the Winnipeg Jets all year long, you knew the hangover, if there was going to be one, what it would look like. And they have faced it head on. They have been a much better team. And whether it's goals against, the best team in the league, best goaltender, best in the league, defensive structure, best in the league, and a bunch of guys that can score a hell of a lot of goals. This team is set up to take a run at it. There's a lot of other great teams in the NHL, but I'm not worried about Connor Hellebuyck all of a sudden, the clock striking midnight and him being a different player once the playoffs get going. But we know how competitive he is. He's, I'm sure he'll be in a bit of a mood. He'll be locked in tomorrow, and I'll be betting on 37 tomorrow night. Again, we did find out that potentially Zach Hyman, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid all didn't practice today, and Knobloch said their statuses were undetermined for tomorrow. So that'll be something we'll be paying attention tomorrow on the program. Tommy Gazzola, the handsome one, will join us from Edmonton tomorrow on the program to tee things up from the home team side of things as we get ready for that 8 o'clock start. And again, don't forget, join us at BP tomorrow. McPhillips, Garden City, if you're able to. Should be a lot of fun with Winnipeg Sports Talk, Little Brown Jug, and Boston Pizza for a little WST watch party. The Madness starts tomorrow. Also a huge soccer game tomorrow with Canada and Mexico. So let's head over to the Coolbet Lines. We'll start off with tonight, though. We've only got 2 games in the National Hockey League, but a pretty good one early on. The Leafs at home hosting the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs, a -123 favorite on the road. Leafs coming off that big win against Calgary, +105. The Seattle Kraken are +141 on the money line. The Minnesota Wild -167. That game to be taking place in St. Paul. So just 2 of those. And while we're on it, I did ask the bookmakers at Coolbet to give us some numbers on playoff possibilities. And we've got them now. So here we are. And I just love the fact that we can just kind of say, oh, I'd love to know what these odds are, and boom, it's up. Shout out to Ev Dog and the Coolbet boys for making this happen. Here are your odds to make the playoffs for these teams that are in the wild card races. You can jump on these right now at Coolbet if you so desire. The Sens, the odds makers are telling us the Sens are basically in. -33-33. They're 11-1 not to make the playoffs. So if you think the bottom's going to fall out on the Sens, 11-1 for them not to make the playoffs. Everyone else, though, is going to have a real challenge. The Vancouver Canucks, after their win last night, +125 to make it, -167 on the other side. The St. Louis Blues are +175 in the West and -238 not to make it. And the Calgary Flames, I think mostly due to strength of schedule, and that's a big part of the Blues number as well. Calgary's +320 to make the playoffs, -500 not to make the playoffs. Now, huge win for Ottawa or for Montreal last night, coming back in the second half of the third period to beat the Ottawa Senators. The Habs jump into that spot. They're +175, taking advantage of an absolutely brutal night for the New York Rangers. What a Jekyll and Hyde team that is this year. They put up, I think, like 13 shots on the Calgary Flames. Credit to Calgary for stepping up after getting smoked by the Leafs in their previous game out. Calgary gets a huge win over New York, and that means the Rangers fall back to +230. The no on the Rangers side is -323. The other team that we should mention is the Utah Hockey Club. They got trucked last night by Edmonton 7-1. Meanwhile, Calgary won, St. Louis won, and Vancouver won. Devastating night to their playoff chances. Utah 7-1 to make the playoffs, -2,000 to the no. So there you have the hockey situation. Hellebuck still +200 to win the MVP, the Hart Trophy. Lane Hudson, who scored last night, by the way, if you're looking for kind of a need, he's +200 to win the Calder. Celebrini -250, and Dustin Wolf is +800, so 8-1. And right now, no change in the Hart Trophy odds from yesterday. Draisaitl -250, Hellebuck 2-1, Nasty Nate McKinnon 8-1 for the Hart Trophy. And the Jets, their number came down a little bit, but they're still -714 favorites to win the Central Division. Dallas Stars 5-1. So a quieter night in the National Hockey League. March Madness, though, goes tomorrow. And by the way, while I'm mentioning this, Remis, if you can, pop the link for the bracket back in the chat. We'll do a completely free bracket. Just pop in, fill it out. You don't have to know anything about it. It's always fun. We'll get a few prizes from our sponsors for whoever wins and takes down the bracket. But it's always fun just for a little internal competition amongst the WST community. So get in on that. There are 2 more teams to book their spot. The winner of tonight's game between Mount St. Mary's and American. Mount St. Mary or American is minus 2.5 point favorites. And then it's Xavier and Texas. Xavier minus 2.5. I think we're looking at the under in the early game, minus 129. And then I like an Xavier maybe on the money line. One other thing I should mention, but Coolbet, if you are betting on these games, for tonight, if you didn't use it tomorrow, for tonight, if you're betting on either of the play-in games, you've got a 30% profit boost available. So make sure to click that green button when you're making your bet, because you'll be able to get a brand new one tomorrow when the first round happens. And then we'll do it again on the weekend. So a great opportunity, much like we did for the golf, and the golf promo is now going on every week. You get 130% profit boost. You've got that for the play-in, and you've got that for round one over at Coolbet. A whole bunch of props and parlays up in the combo cards as well, if you would like, including, what did we have? We've got our Lock Shop favorites and our Lock Shop dogs from our draft yesterday. But Jake and Patty have put some stuff together. Whole bunch out there right now. And then we hit the Valspar today in the Lock Shop. Canadian Corey Connors has been phenomenal as of late. This could be a great week for Corey Connors. Kind of like him at plus at 27-1. And I'm going to use the golf boost 30% on Corey Connors. Top 20, he's at plus 130. And by the time you use that boost, it comes out to more like about plus 170. Tommy Fleetwood, your favorite, at 13-1. JT at 15-1. One other thing about March Madness, Simon Hildebrand and High Point, 7.5 point dogs tomorrow against Purdue. That matchup getting going at 11:40. So we'll have a little bit of a March Madness sweat for Simon at the beginning of tomorrow's Winnipeg Sports Talk. Cannot wait for that. Now, the one other thing I wanted to get to, and I actually had not checked this yet, but there is the big tournament tomorrow, the Nations Cup. And we are going to see Canada take on Mexico. I think it's got to be international, I believe. Yeah, here we are. International. Moving down.
Where is this?
FIFA World Cup.
Oh, under soccer?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. It's called the... What the heck is it called again? Wouldn't be under... Yes, no, I know it's a World Cup. Nation Specials. I think that's it. Oh. I cannot find it. Well, we'll do that for tomorrow's night. But yes, and this will be fun. I'm going to see if I can get a TV on it at BP tomorrow while we're watching the Jet game, because 8 p.m. is tomorrow, Winnipeg, Edmonton, where we're going to be down at BP Garden City. And then 9:30, Canada and Mexico kickoff in LA at the Coliseum. And the winner will move on from that to play. Canada has the chance to win their first trophy in 25 years since the 2000 Gold Cup, if they can win this Nations. And presumably, I believe it is Panama and the U.S. in the other semi. So if they can beat the U.S., they are favored, and then take on the United States. That'll be a matchup that we'll all be up for. So good luck to the Canadians, as I say. We'll get to that tomorrow in the Lock Shop. But get your golf picks in before tomorrow's Valspar. Your first round March Madness picks as well. And again, don't forget to fill out the bracket. We'll do a 3-man weave tomorrow, talking all things March Madness, and a big slate in the NHL tomorrow before Jets Oilers in the Lock Shop, noon, over on the Edmonton Sports Talk feed, before we fire it up here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Again, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Hey, Reem, before we go, we should wrap some of the news coming out of the GM meetings down in sunny Florida.
Yeah, I'm fired up about the NHL GMs meetings. You get to see all the insiders in their suits with no tie, unbuttoned dress shirts, doing stand-ups with the ocean.
I think the stand-ups, they do it from the exact same place every year.
It looks
They just
good.
got their little spot. Well, beautiful. They got the waves crashing in the background. The hair is flowing a little bit for the fellas.
So everyone's out there. Gary Bettman spoke today. There's tweets coming out. I mean, here's what. So earlier this week, Pierre LeBrun announced that the Olympics, the NHL players are going. Each country will name 6 players, in June, and the rest by the end of December. The 6 players you name early, I think it's for marketing purposes. I remember getting like McDonald's coins, I think of 1998 Nagano, where they had like pucks. They had pucks for 2002. I remember they had all this promotional stuff. I don't think the toys at fast food places are as good as they were when I was a kid, but we'll see what happens. I still have my mini helmets from 1996. McDonald's, one of the great promotional items of all time. So I was trying to think of who Canada would name. McDavid, McKinnon, Makar, Crosby are the easy 4. And, pick who you want.
You think Binnington gets named?
Yes. Yeah, I would say yes. I think he is established they've established that he's their guy, whether you think he is or not. They clearly believe in him. They started for him for all the games. He had an incredible performance. You can bank on that. I think he will be on the team for sure, or they will put him on. And then who do they want to do? They want to put Mitch Marner on, Sam Reinhart. I think Josh Morrissey seems to be, a lock as one of the
Makar and Morrissey.
Yeah.
I mean, it might give you a little bit more flexibility, at the fort. Like, not that, Mitch might be. I mean, I think Mitch Marner is going to be on the team. I think that's pretty safe bet. He would be one of those. But, I mean, remember last year, Brad Marchand was one of the early names. And I think there's an argument to be made that if he wasn't named earlier in the summer, I'm not sure he gets on that team. Although it was finishing up in Boston. Maybe they do it because of his length of service for Canada and Hockey Canada. But again, won't be too hard to find 6 players to throw that on. But yeah, we'll get those early. And then they'll wait until the end of December. I believe the 31st is going to be the date for the rest of the teams for the Olympics in Italy. I will admit, maybe I shouldn't be surprised at this. I mean, you know me, I'm a big 3-point game guy. They seemingly don't even get there anymore, even though we saw it at the Four Nations. But I am a little disappointed that Bettman has not moved off a little bit the playoff format. I mean, for crying out loud, if we get the Oilers Kings for the 4th or 5th straight year in the first round, and Dallas and Colorado, which I'm fully in support of this year because of the Jets' likelihood of getting first, but it doesn't seem to be best for the game, for the matchups. People are going to be fired up for the first round no matter what. I really do think, Remis, that if they went to the 1-8, we'd be talking about a much different story when it came to particularly the second round, but also the first. Here's what the matchups, just for the example right now. So Winnipeg 1 would still be playing the first wild card. That would be Vancouver. The Vegas Golden Knights would be the 2 seed. And they would play the first wild card, which is the Minnesota Wild. That is the same as right now. What is different, though, is instead of Dallas playing Colorado and Edmonton playing LA, Dallas would play LA and Edmonton would play Colorado in the first round, which would be an incredible matchup. I mean, the thing is, when you've got this many really good teams, someone's going to get bounced in the first round. But to have it set up automatically, potentially having the 2 and 3 teams in the division playing in the first round, and you don't get any of the variety. In the Eastern Conference, it's I think a little different. Washington would be playing the first wild card, which is Montreal. That would be the same. The Florida Panthers would be the 2 seed. They would be playing the Ottawa Senators. And then you'd have Carolina at New Jersey and Tampa and Toronto. So by my count, nothing would change in the East. But I would be here for at least the flexibility and rewarding teams for having more points in the regular season, especially with such a balanced schedule like we have right now.
Yeah, and Gary Bettman is saying that publicly. I think one thing we've learned about him, he'll never publicly admit that he was wrong. on something, and he was saying, Arizona's fine, we're committed to Arizona, and then all of a sudden the switch flips, and boom, they're in Utah. I think you've heard players say they don't like this format. We've discussed so many times why it's terrible. Again, repetitive matchups. It's not creating rivalries, which they thought. And also you're having, the teams that are two top 4 teams in the conference meeting the first round, which I don't think is great. Doesn't reward you for having a good regular season. It's funny, on the flip side, the NFL, they're also having proposed rule changes right now. And Detroit is one team that proposed to change playoff seeding to reward the teams with the best records, because we saw, Minnesota have this great season, but because they were in a division with Detroit, they had road playoff games. It's dumb. Road teams are having a good season. I don't think the book's closed because he just said that right now. I think teams will continue to push to do what's right. We've had this. I think that what they do like, though, Huss, is they do like the certainty of the bracket, marketing bracket challenge, and maybe for time zones.
Dude,
you don't think they like having bracket challenge on their website? I think that's a bullshit reason. I think that's a bullshit reason to like it, but I think that they like saying, "Oh, have you filled out your bracket here?" They like doing that.
They like doing it. It's had an absolutely negligible impact on anything.
I agree with you.
I mean, it like, as I say, I don't disagree with you that they think that it's a great idea and they like it. There's a number of different ways to skin a cat, and they don't need to set it up the way that they do just for a concrete bracket challenge in the first round. The Packers want to ban the tush push. No one in Philly likes that. And the wording is to prohibit an offensive player from immediately at the snap pushing or throwing his body against a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and receive the snap to aid him in attempt to gain yardage. Doubt that will pass. And the Eagles want playoff OT rules in the regular season. As of right now, if you get a touchdown right off the bat, you win. That is not the case in the postseason, and will interesting. Oh, and another thing from the Lions, they want to eliminate granting an automatic first down for a defensive holding or illegal contact, saying the current enforcement is too punitive for the offense. So anyway, some interesting proposed NFL rule changes. Not hearing a lot coming out of the NHL GM meetings, although they're reevaluating the All-Star game format next year. It is crazy. I can't believe that they're having the All-Star game and the Olympic break and then opening the season on October 7th. There's going to be a ton of back-to-backs, 3 and 4s next year, and that is just part of it. When you want to have such a long season, but yet start it after the 1st of October and still finish it in June, which I think for most people is a little too long to start with.
I never really understood, when people talk about the 4 nations, you heard a lot of people say, oh, this is so much better than an all-star game. I never really saw it as a replacement for the all-star game. I thought it was like they're finally saying they're having a period for best on best. And I just felt like you heard that a lot. And it is strange. I guess they promised New York, because they got a new arena, they would have an all-star week. I don't know what they're going to do here for it, but I don't know. I never understood, saying that the 4 nations was a replacement for, I thought saw it as a replacement for the World Cup, because they, or as best on best, because they hadn't, I didn't see it as like
just happened
the same
to be
thing.
That they were taking an all-star break, and instead of doing the all-star break, they were doing it. And that's why people go, whoa, for an all-star game, this is the best thing ever. This was far from it. Oh, listen, there were the all-stars of the NHL were there, but there's no way you can replicate that for any sort of all-star festivities. And who knows what becomes of the all-star game, whether it's something that they do some sort of a showcase every couple years. But I think what fans would like is for them to really focus in on the product and getting us that best on best, which now we're scheduled to get every second year. Schickster just said in the chat that where is this right here?
He says tush push is a legal move in rugby. That one, or he said he wants a 70-game NHL season.
Yeah, 70-game NHL season 2 with the new commissioner. If you think that NHL owners and NHL players, for that matter, because they're 50% partners in HRR, are going to co-sign on 6 less home dates per team, even though it's the right thing to do, it would make more sense. It would increase the quality of the play. There's no way that they could charge that much more to make up the money. So anything that is going to have them lose significant amounts of cash, I think, is a non-starter. Hell, they were floating an 84-game schedule, which is absurd. But if anything, it's going there, not back to 70, as much as I think we all agree that would be the best for the game.
Yeah, they wanted to eliminate 2 preseason games because they're pretty useless. But to do that, you're losing all this revenue. So like, we'll just add on 2 more regular season games. And you do have the Jets playing interdivision. You play every team, 4 times, and one team you have to play 3 times. So it would allow some more balance that way. But yeah, they're not lowering the games. One thing that Bettman did say, he is not a fan of extending 3-on-3 overtime because the ice quality deteriorates and additional wear and tear. I think part of it too is they want the games to end. They don't want them to go forever for TV. Like, okay, it's going to be like 3-hour window maximum. I'm fine. Do I think it should be longer? Like, yeah, but I'm not so angry about it. I kind of get it. We said earlier in the week that we want them to have that you can't take the puck back behind your own net once it's crossed the blue line.
That would be a better. Like, I don't have an issue with the shootout at all after you play the 3-on-3 overtime. I mean, as I said, to me, 3-on-3 is just as gimmicky as a shootout. I mean, what would make this all make way more sense is win a damn game in regulation and get all 3 points.
Yeah.
As opposed to moving it in. I mean, it's one of those things. But again, the fake parity that the loser point creates with only 2 points for a win right now is part of the reason why we've got 4 teams in the mix and feeling that they're right in it in the West, and another 3 or 4 teams in the East that are right there in it. So it might be manufactured, but in the eyes of the commissioner, at least, and probably some owners, it is giving them the opportunity to keep more teams seemingly feeling it in. Although my argument always is that you're actually way more in it in a 3-point scenario where those huge head-to-head games, if you win them, you get 3, the other guys get 0, and you can move up so much more. But apparently they don't see it that way. Although we did have some success with the 3-point games, all games being worth 3 points, international-style rules at the Four Nations Cup, and that'll be the same way coming up at the Olympics. All right, fun show today. Thanks to Mike Morreale for jumping on. Great chat with Kevin Woodley after last night's game. And, of course, Murat, always love bringing in one of WST's favorites on that. Tomorrow, we'll head to Edmonton. Tom Gazzola will join us. Brandon Rowicki as well. I'm going to do something on the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame with John Waldman, so it should be a busy show. And then tomorrow night, hoping to see many of you down at Boston Pizza, Garden City. Call ahead if you got a bigger group and you want to reserve a table. Otherwise, just show up. And hopefully we'll have a big Jet win to watch in Edmonton with the WST crew like we did earlier this year with the watch party. When it comes to WST Jets events, Reem, we're 5-0 in the arena at Canada Life Center with the WST group. By the way, just a couple tickets left for the game a week Friday against New Jersey. WinnipegJets.com/WST. If you've been waiting, don't wait. We already sold out once. We got more seats. Not sure we'll be able to get any more after that. And we're also technically 1-0 with our watch party. So looking for our 7th gathering of the year and a win, and then hopefully can make it 8 in a week on Friday night when Jersey comes to town.
Yeah, only a couple seats left for that Friday game, and we haven't really experienced a loss this year. We had a great watch party at Boston Pizza before for the Jets win over Detroit, and they had to pick a player, and the Jets scored 6 goals in that game, so people were winning prizes throughout the game. And yeah, the next Friday, looking forward to seeing everyone there. So we've got a couple events in the hopper right now, so exciting time here, an exciting time for the Jets as the weather's warming up and we're heading towards the playoffs. So look, we got a nice night off. Only like 2 games in the NHL tonight. The schedule, part of me wants to be like, this is so dumb. They should have so many, but it's kind of nice. You got like a little night off and you can follow the games tomorrow.
You know what? And listen, the Colorado-Toronto game will be an awesome game to watch early on. You got Seattle, Minnesota a little bit later on from that. And then a big slate tomorrow. And I do like the big slates. I mean, it's great for DraftKings. It's great for, when we're doing our bets over at Coolbet to be able to put a few games together. But listen, tomorrow, all about Edmonton and Winnipeg. But I'm just checking right now. So of the, we sold out once. We got a bunch more seats. We're now down. There's only 5 seats remaining. So if you do want to join us next Friday for that, again, your ticket includes a beer, a beverage of your choice as well. Jump on that and join us in section 316. There are only 5 tickets remaining. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks to all of you for jumping on. Shout out to you podcast listeners. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk and get locked and loaded tomorrow for the WST watch party at BP Garden City with Little Brown Jug and a big show at 1 p.m. before Edmonton and Winnipeg drop the puck in the Jets' 70th game of the regular season. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have yourself a great night. We'll catch you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.